This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Just Rav Shlita, Kol Kaddish Hazeh. Before I start, I wanted to thank the Rav, the Shul, for hosting this. I want to thank our sponsor, Rav Heschel Klosterfeld, Rabbi Cheskel Taparovich, who runs one of the Techeiles factories, who's here from Eretz Yisrael. My Charusa, my partner in this project, Rabbi Yisroel Rosenberg, who's here with us, and everyone who helped arrange this year. So we're going to be discussing tonight the chilazon that's been in discussion for the last 25 whatever years, from the known as the Murex Trunculus Snail, that many people are starting to wear Techeiles from. So just to know what we're starting from. I think I know. Huh?
Okay, we see it.
Okay. This is the Murex snail. I wanted to get it out. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, he showed everything to the real things to people. This is the Murex snail. It's live. This is he's a legal immigrant, imported legally, an LL. The Murex snail is used now for, you could open it up and you get out its blood, and you make this. You could dye Techeiles with it. This was dyed on this Sunday night. This is fresh new Techeiles, and then this Techeiles could be used, spun into strings, and it could be used for the mitzvah of tzitzis. And it could be put onto tzitzis like this, and we could possibly be mekayim the mitzvah of Techeiles and tzitzis with it. So the question is if this is the right chilazon that's kosher for tzitzis, or if it's really nothing, and that's the big discussion. So this murex that's used for the Techeiles is l'maisa accepted by very many rabbanim b'tzina, being involved in dealing with Techeiles for many years and speaking to a lot of people. I learned about countless rabbanim, rosh hashivas, rebbes, so many of them. Anyone would be shocked to know how many there are that wear Techeiles, but they wear b'tzina. It's coming out slowly. Sometimes people don't realize. I think it's something that's not accepted. It's not accepted by anyone. It's only one or two, maybe deis yechidim that wear it. It's not true at all. There's many people that wear it. It's b'tzina. It's coming out. Perhaps the most prominent of those that wore was my late uncle, a guy named Rabbi Yisroel Barkin Zatzal. He wore it not just b'tzina, even though he didn't wear it in his talis. He didn't want to put up a whole fight. He told someone that shalom is also a mitzvah, but he did not wear b'tzina. He wore it, and he would show it to anyone. He wouldn't try to hide it in the later years, in the beginning years when it wasn't so accepted. So he tried to hide it. After he wouldn't try to hide it, I was zeicha to hear from him. About 2 years ago from now was my last time that I spoke to him face to face. I spoke to him by phone between that and his patira. So I was there in his office in Camp Agura, and there was his gabbai was there, and Rabbi Frischman, who helps run the Masmida program, was there, and someone there in the office brought up the issue of Techeiles. I didn't bring it up. I was sitting there, and he said this thing by himself. He wasn't asked to say it. He said that this is 100% for sure the right Techeiles. There's no suffix about it, and it fits perfectly with every single mimer in the Gemara about it. So this is something that comes as a shock to some people. They think that there's Gemaras that are dechukim to fit with it, and it's only scientific evidence, and sedaichik in the Gemara. So in Hashem we're going to discuss these issues, and we're going to show that he was 100% right. And when you come to a deeper understanding of every single Gemara fits with it, and it's not against the Rishonim either. So lately there have been a number of shiurim in Flatbush with asking some valid questions about the Techeiles, about the Murex, and I wanted to address some of these questions. So there's one shiur recently by Daniel Kleinman Shlita, who I had the great pleasure and opportunity of speaking to him yesterday for close to an hour and a half, and I had a very, very nice discussion with him, give and take, and he accepted a lot of the things I said. Some things we had a very nice discussion. So I'm gonna and he went through. So many of you might have heard his share. If you didn't, I think it's available. And I'm going to go on the Seder of that shir, and then I'm going to discuss other questions that were brought up by other people. So in this shir, he started off by presenting us with, I think the way I have it written down is 9 rayas that are brought that the Murex is a chilazon. So he actually said these rayas over very accurately, but the only thing is that there's more than 9 rayas that weren't said over. It could be there wasn't enough time in that shir. This shir doesn't have any end time, so anyone can leave whenever they want, but I'm ready to go until midnight. I don't know if the lights are going to go out. We'll light some candles. But there's more than 9 rayas, and some of these rayas could be brought out even better, possibly. So I'm going to try to go through these rayas and go through a little bit the objections on these rayas, and then go through the Gemaras and the Rishonim. So the first raya that was brought in that shir, I believe, is that there's a famous medrash. Anyone who looks at Svarim that speak about Techeiles, they know that there's a medrash. It's in the Psikta Der Kana. It's the earliest makar in the medrash, and it's quoted in other medrashim, Medrash Rabbah, and different places. That says that that how did Klal Yisrael wear clothing in the midbar? They didn't get new clothing, so the little children, their clothing grew together with them, just like a chilazon, that its nartik grows together with it. So it seems that chilazon is being used there as an example of an animal that has a nartik that grows with it. So that would mean it has like something around its body, comparable to clothing on a person, that grows together with it, which would fit very nicely with a snail. That doesn't have to be a snail, it could be a turtle also. But we'll see later that many Rishonim describe chilazon as a teilas. So if you put teilas together with nartika gadulimai, then turtle is ruled out. You only can get a snail. It'd be pointed out that this nartika gadulimai, it says about chilazon, it says in the Rishonim bring down this medrash in the different nusach, they say beisa gadulimai. So there also you see it's like mamish like a house around it. It wouldn't fit to say that it's just like a thick skin that grows around it, like one dechia was once suggested to be doicha the raya from the medrash. It has a bias that grows around with it. Another raya or smach that the Murex Trunculus that we have here is the chilazon of Chazal, because the Gemara says in Shabbos and Daf Chavav Mid Aleph, it speaks about after Churban Beis HaMikdash, they didn't send everyone into Golus. They left some people there. They left Nebuzradan, who was the general of Nebuchadnezzar, left poor people in Eretz Yisrael, l'kormim u'liyoigvim. So Chazal say in the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Chavav Mid Aleph that kormim is the Malakei HaParasamoin in Ein Gedi, and the kormim, that's the kormim, and the yoigvim are the tzayodei chilazon misuma the tzor v'ad chayfa. So the yoigvim are the people that catch the chilazon from tzor to chayfa. Tzor is north of Eretz Yisrael and Lebanon. Chayfa is part of the northern area of Eretz Yisrael, and that's actually the place where the Murex snail is the most concentrated. It's in Eretz Yisrael. I believe that it could be found sometimes in the south also. Misham will hear after from Rabbi Yisroel will share with us some more information about the Metzias from his vast experience. But from what I understand from anyone that I spoke to that deals with the diving, that's what it is. That it's found in the northern parts of Eretz Yisrael because that is more of a rocky area. The Murex Trunculus lives on rocky places in the ocean rather than sandy places. In the south it's more sandy, in the north it's more rocky. So not only does it live there now, but there's tons and tons of archaeological excavations that found that it was used in the olden days it was used for tzvia in the olden days. It doesn't say on the archaeology what color tzvia it was, but we know it was used for tzvia. They're broken open. It's besides for finding the findings that are there, it's documented by writings of those times. So if this... So was that for purple or was that for blue? So we're going to get to later that the medrash says, the Rishonim bring a medrash that there's the chilazon shetzayvim menu tzvarim harbe. The chilazon is something that makes a lot of colors. So the chilazon can make blue, it can make purple, it can make everything.
What's
the facts
the
are
from the shells found in the sword?
The rye from the shells is not.
Everybody knows about
yes.
Tyrian purple.
Everyone knows about Tyrian purple. So that's why I think So I introduced. I might have been too makatzer that a lot of these things are not rayas, they're a smach, and when you put everything together you have to look because it helps you look at the full picture, that once you know it was used in the time of Chazal, and it's very easy to get a purple out of it, it's very easy to get a blue out of it also. It's extremely easy. It's no big chachma. Some people think it's a big chachma that was discovered in the 80s. It's not true. It was discovered in the 40s also by German scientists, so that's why people don't want to talk about it. It will be discovered by anyone who deals with it. It's no big discovery. So it was something that was used in those days. It is a chilazon, like we're saying that the word chilazon means snail. It's a chilazon that could be used for Techeiles that was in those days. By no means is the fact that they found that they are a self-standing raya. Anyone who thinks it's a self-standing raya obviously doesn't understand it. Anyone who says it's a raya means that it builds up the case after you know how much this was in use in the time of Chazal, and you see descriptions of Chazal and the Techeiles, and you know that this was something that was used in that time, in that place. And it's the same place as Chelik Zvulun, like we'll speak about. So it puts together the case.
Why does Yechezkel say that they imported Techeiles?
Yechezkel says they imported Techeiles because in that time of Yechezkel was earlier on, and obviously the people in Sar weren't making it yet. Techeiles yet in that time.
They were Zvulun.
The Anshe Tsar were different people than Zvulun, and they could have gotten higher quality Techeiles from other places before they became the world famous exporters of Techeiles. It's a very good question. I'll explain the question, what he's asking. It's tam a question. It's not a question on the identification of the Murex, but there's a pasuk that says about Chirum Melech Tzar that he Techeiles argamon mi'i Elisha hayu mechasech, that he would get Techeiles and argamon from the islands of Elisha. It's a question what the islands of Elisha is. Some people could look in the Kashrus Levushar and it speaks about it. So if the Tyrian purple, which was such a famous thing that I'll hopefully get to later to describe what the Tyrian purple was the most famous thing that the Anshe Tzar made, and we'll see Rabbi Yaakov Emden speaks about the fame of the Tyrian purple and how that's the same thing as the Techeiles. So why would the Chiyur Melech Tzar bring it in? Chiyur Melech Tzar was also Tzar. He was the same Tzar from Pliny the Elder speaks about Tzar, and Chiyur Melech Tzar was also Tzar. The only thing is that Pliny the Elder, when Chiyur Melech Tzar was much later than the time of Chiyur Melech Tzar. In the time of Chiyur Melech Tzar, it's obvious that there was some kind of mila to bring in imported goods. Sometimes you get cars made in China. That's where you get worse quality.
Material for the ships. So it might be because the manufacture of this kind of material that you need for the ships, because it doesn't came from there together with the coloring. It's a mountain most of that.
Yeah. Okay, Yechezkel has another answer. You'll be marchav on it hopefully more later when you go.
Might be.
Yeah. Okay.
It's B'derech Marshall.
Yeah, no.
The pasuk's not B'derech Marshall. The pasuk's talking about what Chiyur Melech Tzar himself.
He's saying how Gviri and how Ashira.
Okay, we have to continue on. We're going to have the time for questions and answers after. I'm happy to take questions as we speak that are negated and we're talking about like this, but we'll deal with those questions fast. And after I'm done this, then I'm happy to stay for questions as long as anyone wants until 12, maybe even later. So, okay. The next raya that was mentioned by Kleinman Shlita was that there's a Rav Yah in Brachas brings Yerushalmi. So there should be pointed out this raya. I think the credit to this raya is not known, but I believe that the first person who presented this raya and brought it to the stage was Hagoy Ari Kaplan, in his Chumash and Parshas Truma. He has a whole discussion about Techeiles, and you see there that he also wants, even though it was before this Techeiles was produced, but you see over there in other books from Ari Kaplan also, he's clearly very anointed that this was the Techeiles, Derech Agav, and he points out that the Rav Yah brings Yerushalmi. The Rav Yah, anyone who learns Rav Yah knows Rav Yah brings all times the Rav Yah brings Yerushalmis that Mamor from Yerushalmi that we don't have. And many Rishonim bring parts of Yerushalmi that we don't have, because the Yerushalmi came down to us with a lot of mistakes and told us ciphers. So there's also full pieces that seem to have been left out that the Rishonim bring. And where it says about the Zman of Kriyashma, the beginning of the Zman of Kriyashma, according to one of the Tanoim, I think Rabbi Eliezer, Bein Techeiles L'Karsi, the Rav Yah brings, the Yerushalmi explains, what does Bein Techeiles L'Karsi mean? It means Bein Porphyrin L'Profinin. Porphyrin L'Profinin. So what's happening is that the Rav Yah is making a connection between Techeiles and Porphyrin. Porphyrin is the royal baguette, and the royal baguette is called Porphyrin because it was made out of the purpura snail. Purpura is another name for the Murex. We have linens that are made out of cotton, but the reason they're called linens is because they're made out of linen. This happens, if anyone thinks about words, you know that it happens all the time. That there's words start off as a certain chetza and then it goes on to become a name of something else. You have the orange and then you have the orange color. That colors a lot of the colors, or most of the colors, I think, are like this. But porphyrin also is pretty clear. I don't have a raya gemura to this right now. I'm still looking. That the name, the fish, the shellfish porphyra was the original. But I believe that to be true. That the fish is original, and the porphyrin that's named after that is because the beged was made out of Techeiles. There's a medrash that says porphyros hamalachim Techeiles, the royal garb of malachim, they wear Techeiles. So there's this Raviyah. This Raviyah is also mentioned the same idea in the Moisef Aruch. It says by porphyro perish blushin yivani v'roimi beged Techeiles, and this Moisef Aruch is echoed by Mefarshei HaMedrash bring it down. The Eitz Yosef brings it down in Mefarshei HaMedrash. The B'farim Zal Magolius brings it down in a different place. But the idea here that the Raya Kaplan was bringing out was that there's a clear connection between Techeiles and porphyrin, and it would seem logical that Techeiles is because this porphyrin is made out of Techeiles, and that's what the Yerushalmi means, which would very strongly point to the porphyra snail being the source of the Techeiles.
What does Yerushalmi say?
It says Techeiles lekarsi is porphyrin leporphinin. In Techeiles lekarsi, the explanation between blue and whatever porphyrin is. No one knows what porphyrin is, by the way.
Porphyrin is purple in Greek.
So that's not true, because Shaul Lieberman knew a little better Greek than you, and he didn't know what it means.
I don't know. Greek parafino is purple.
Okay, so you could debate Shaul Lieberman. Listen, I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a fan of his, but you could quote Mumchim in languages. They roll letters trying to figure out.
You don't mention Shaul.
I don't want to mention him. You're asking a question. You're giving me your mumchias in Greek that porphyrin.
You're saying Greek. The definition in Greek is parafino is purple.
Okay, so I'm going to wait for you to prove that to me. I'm going to wait for you to prove that to me before debating the bigger mumchim in Greek. Anyways,
what's your passion?
No, so that means that he's not talking about the snail. He's talking about the color.
Yes, I didn't. He's not. Excuse me. He's not talking about the color. He's talking about the
beged and purple.
Very good. I just explained that he's talking about the beged, and he's talking about the beged, and I said that the Raviyah point's very strong. And Gabor Rabba brought this raya. I didn't say this raya. I said the Raviyah point's very strong because he's saying that porphyrin is Techeiles because it's a beged Techeiles, and porphyrin is a beged Techeiles, and the reason why it has to do with Techeiles is because it's named after the porphyra that makes Techeiles. Okay? No one knows what porphyrin means. We'll take a Greek dictionary after it's over.
Porphyrin should be kaldi.
Okay. You know, we said that we'll save the questions for after. Okay, I think each person here has a limit of 5 questions they could ask. No problem. You can ask another 3. Okay. The next raya, which also, I'll be clear that this wasn't the raya, this was a smach, it was a shugul Torah, but it helps put together the picture, is that there was a Gemara in Sanhedrin that says about Techeiles being smuggled through the time of when Goyim weren't happy with it. So Rabbi Kleiman accurately pointed out that although Rashi learns that it's talking about the parasium there, but he very quickly mentioned something I'm going to stall on a little bit more, that the Ben Yehoyada takes issue with Rashi. So I'm sorry the Ben Yehoyada was allowed to take issue with Rashi. He felt it was okay, at least in some limited instances. So the Ben Yehoyada says that he doesn't think that the Parsiim would get involved with Techeiles. They weren't in control in Eretz Yisrael, where the Techeiles was being imported from. And the Ben Yehoyada says that he thinks it makes more sense that it was talking about the Romans, the Nesher that says that the Gemara says the Nesher stopped them from being in Techeiles. So Techeiles is something that we know that it stopped because of the Romans, and there's much more to say about them. I'm not going to get into it now. I think I'll get into it a little bit later. I just want to add here that Rameir Mezuz Shlita added on another knesh to build up the case of the Ben Yehoyada. He said that it says in the Teichacha that Yisa Hashem Alecha Goyim Meirachik Kasher Yideh HaNasher. I don't know if I'm quoting it properly, but it says Kasher Yideh HaNasher. Like the Nasher will come and swoop down. What's the Nasher? The Ramban says that whole Teichacha is speaking about the Romans. So you see the Romans being compared to the Nasher. So
the word itself there says Edom.
It's number 3. Yeah. So we'll take it on with the Ben Yehoyada. This the Gemara says Edom because it was speaking about something else over there, but everything had to be sent in exact code language, so they shouldn't be caught. And they were very, very careful. You see other Gemaras there with the Smicha, that how much they were scared of the Romans. And I want to get to the Romans later. There's the what? It's Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. And there's a Ben Yehuda there that takes on Rashi.
Even according to Rashi, Chel Parsim doesn't have to be that there was Shilton Parsim. There were also Parsim of all kinds of other nations serving under the Romans also.
Okay, Cheskel says that it could be the Parsim who were working for the Romans. I take issue with what you say. I don't agree with you because there's a Sugi and Brachas, Tachnun Vavim and Aleph, where you see that the Parsim and the Romans were always in a fight with each other. So I don't think that the Parsim were working under the Romans, unless you're saying it's a different era in history when the Romans were misgabbering the Parsim. Okay, that was by Rav and Shmuel. They were in a fight and they had dreams. The whole thing, on top of the Vav and Aleph. This in time of Rava, later on, the Romans got stronger then. So it could be Rabbi Cheskel's right that the Chel Parsim is Shaykhis. Either way, Rashi's not a stira to the fact that Romans could have had Gzeiras. Rashi tells us that the Parsim also. Okay. Next question. Next Raya question. Some people look at this Raya as a question. Some people look at it as a Raya. There is something called Kol Elon that's mentioned in the Gemara many times. It's mentioned in the Gemara in context with Techeiles. That is something to fake Techeiles. It's mentioned in the Gemara and in Tosefta as an individual die, not in regards to Techeiles also. And Kol Elon is identified by the Aruch as Indigo. I believe everyone agrees with that because the Rambam also has istis, and istis is the same idea as indigo. It's a different type of plant. It's the same idea. It might be more proper to say isatis. In the Muki Yosef, he brings down also the Aruch is the most clear and tremendous authority. The Aruch says that Kalian's what?
Indigo is plant, and Laura talked about Elon, so.
Yeah.
Elon is usually not used for plants.
So it's he's saying, Rabbi Talmud is saying that it's a bush. It could be the Elon was like a bush that grows for a few. Listen, this is a question. This is what's accepted by the Rishonim. No one is seriously mefakfik on this, except for the people that just say mechates, eat everything about Techeiles. Still, you tell them that you tell them they were in a shul now. They'll say that maybe you're in a dungeon.
Elon means to say it's not coming from a Baal Chai.
Okay. So it's very widely accepted, except by the biggest critics in the world, that Kol Elon is indigo dye, and indigo is something that was used to fake Techeiles. As I was saying, that it's something mentioned by Chazal in two places that I know of, as something that was as something that and as an individual dye, it's not regarding Techeiles. Okay, so Kol Elon is the same exact color as the Murex, same exactly equal. Now, don't try to bring me on your rise that it wasn't equal, because it's Mephorish in the Gemara is equal. It says, Ani Hashem sha'asud li para. V'misha tayla kol ilum bebigdai. Hashem is going to punish someone, meaning there's something that no people could figure out the difference, and it says that you need to make a special bedika. So, I know there's some people that want to bring rayas from certain Rishonim that there's a little difference, and I want to get to that all the way at the end of this discussion, at the end of this share. But it's very clear from the Gemara, in my opinion, that kol ilum makes the same exact color as Techeiles. So this Techeiles that's made from the Murex is the same exact color as indigo, which helps out a little bit.
Indigo doesn't have a color. Indigo could be made a spectrum.
Green
till things. So how can you say
till what?
Green till purple?
No, purple.
Till before purple.
Yeah, it doesn't have
before purple.
Yeah.
So how could you say indigo is the same color?
Okay. The standard color you get from indigo is blue. The green is what you get from the istis plant. The regular Indian indigo plant, you get blue. I have indigo powder here. It's pure blue. My friend went and dyed it without any chemicals and took from this powder. I can't open up the bag. I'll make a big mess here. Then they'll let me speak here again. So, okay. Thank you. That's number 4, by the way. Hold a second. Yeah.
There was an exhibit at the Institute for the Study of the Ancient World. I think it was granted in NYU on East 85th Street. And I was there.
You could ask one more, 5th still.
And I saw my own eyes.
No, I said that at the end. I said at the end there's going to be open Shabbos Teshuvah. I'm not questioning you. I'm just saying that I'm trying to give a shir and then Shabbos Teshuvah. So I said there could be some questions as they go on. So I said that everyone has 5 questions.
I saw it with my own eyes. These were cloths that were dug up from a cemetery in Egypt from 1,000 years ago, maybe more. I forget the exact date now. And you could see the ones that were Tyrillian purple, the royal stuff from the Murex, it looked mamish brand new. And the lapis lazuli, which they also showed, was faded. It fades over time.
Lapis lazuli is the name of a stone.
I understand, but the dye that came from the lapis...
Oh, from making it into powder.
Correct. That faded over time. That's That's why the emperors didn't use it. That's why
Yeah.
it's cheaper.
So now that lapis
See that,
lazuli.
you can understand what's going on.
Yeah, so indigo dye was also something that was a blue dye. You can make also something greenish from it at times. From the murex, you could also make greenish, so it still matches the murex, by the way, as a side point, or maybe as a central point. One sec. And other dyes would not stay. Plant dyes, it's mentioned in ancient writings. It's clear from the Rambam that istis, the same thing as indigo, that for some reason it was not known in those days. Later on, the Radvaz says that they figured it out how to make it stronger. But in the time of the Gemara, it's clearly documented that it wasn't known how to make it as strong. And it's mentioning that there's lapis lazuli dyes that you can make from grinding up the blue stone, lapis lazuli. And that's where you see that Techeiles is kosher. Kol Ilun looks exactly the same, but it's possible. It's not the same quality. I don't know if that's the reason why it's possible, but it's what do you want to ask?
I'm still thinking it over.
Okay. Sure, no
But even today, it's not the same quality?
So the Radvaz writes that the Radvaz writes something interesting. He says, why did Techeiles go out of use in the Goyish world from the Chilazim? And he gives a suggestion that maybe the reason why it went out of use is because there's a tzeva called istis, which is Nil is the Arabic word for indigo, and istis is the word the Rambam uses for kol ilan. And he says that now, he says it was developed a way to be tzaveh ba'ofen umnus she'eino oiva afila de gihutz, meaning that later dairis it was developed a way to be tzaveh in a very strong way, which doesn't come out even with gihutz. Gihutz means very strong type of washing. If you look in Hilchos Tishba, there's a few pshatim what gihutz means. So the Radvaz is saying that later on, that is the reason why now people can't figure out the bedikas, because everything's being done by phenomenons. I'll get to that soon.
It's the same chemical structure.
It's a very similar chemical structure. It's not totally the same, but
The recipe is different?
yeah, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to the chemical
The
structure. So
recipe is different?
I'm not a mumche in all the indigo recipes. I could just say what the Rambam writes, that this is something that is not oimid, and what Pliny says that Pliny the Elder, the Roman writer, writes about that there were plant sources that would make the same colors as the Tyrian purples, and the Conchilia, which is believed to be Techeiles in Pliny's writings. And he says that there were plant sources used by people in Europe, and those people don't have to go into the ocean and everything, so they have easier life, but their stuff fade. Doesn't say what he's talking about, but it is very possibly speaking about indigo. That would concur with the Rambam and with what the Radvaz is saying. Okay, so I'll get soon to the question about the bedikas. Okay, there is a question here that was asked, that the Kashrus Mishnah says in Parak Beis Lachaches and Chastis, it says that Kol Ilun is Kailo all kinds of blues, all kinds of color blues, which would mean it's Kailo like the lapis lazuli blue that you're mentioning, or Prussian blue if it was around in the time of the Rambam, which probably wasn't. So I can't get into the whole Riches of the Lumdus of the Kashrus Mishnah there, but if you learn the Kashrus Mishnah in context of what he's saying, the Kashrus Mishnah is really saying that the halachas that the Rambam says regarding Kol Ilun also apply to any other dyes that are blue. Meaning the halachas that the Gemara says that regarding Kol Ilun apply, those same halachas will apply to any other blue color. The same halachas will apply even if it's not indigo. That's what the Kashrus Mishnah says. And there's a svarim that prove this, that Kol Ilun is the name of a specific plant. Like the Aruch says indigo from the Gemara in Bava Kama Tadi Beis that says that Kol Ilun uses it as a certain name of a certain thing, as a certain chefza, and the Tosefta also that speaks about the Kol Ilun that you're dash. Okay. Now this one of the I didn't speak this out, but between all these things I said, so there were people that brought out as like a raya or a smach to the Murex, that the Murex is the Techeiles, that they said that if the Murex wasn't the Techeiles, why wouldn't Chazal warn us not to use it? And what they meant to say, why wouldn't Chazal warn us, is a much deeper question than it's taken at face value. It's not just why wouldn't Chazal warn us. It's not just why wouldn't Chazal warn us. It's that you have the same snail, you have a snail in the same place, the same Sulin Saracheva, the same Shevet Zul in the same place where you're supposed to be looking for Techeiles there. It makes the same exact color as Techeiles. It's the same color, it's identified by Kol Ilun, It's definitely called a chilazon, even if the real chilazon is something else. But this is a chilazon. It's in the same place, and it makes the same thing. It's right there. And im kol zeh, Chazal didn't warn us. That's a deeper understanding of what this raya is. And I'm just finishing this off. And the objectors argue that Chazal didn't have to warn us because this maybe was so much more expensive than the real Techeiles. So we find, it was pointed out that we do find that Chazal warn us from expensive things also, because they tell us not to be mitzapeh the tefillin with gold, because anything that someone would want to do, people would want to be mahader mitzvahs and take from the super special chilazon, not just the simple chilazon, which is unknown and also doesn't exist. They would take from the super special Murex chilazon, which is even more expensive. This one is just dam v'yikarim. This is, the real chilazon is dam v'yikarim b'tachlis hayoker, like the Maram says, right? And the Murex is even more than that. So that's what Chazal didn't have to say. So I believe that this argument still stands, and the questions against it are not really sufficient to push it away. Something else?
It's not really a strong question. I just wanted to ask. You said last time that the indigo was the same as the chilazon, so they were similar color. And you're saying the same thing. Why did they weren't? Have we found any other snail that does make a blue dye other than this one?
Yeah, I want to talk about that also. So the snails, I'll say in short, and maybe I'll get back to more later. But there's a whole family of Murex snails, and they live all over the world. And if you do the right things, you could get a blue out of all of them with marine chemicals and everything. They all have the koyach because they have something called dibromo indigo, which is indigo with 2 atoms of bromine in it. And you could do the right things, you could get the bromine out. It's not clear. It's very possible they would be able to, but it's not 100% clear if they will be able to do all the debromination to take out the bromine in time of Chazal as good as they could do it these days. The mile of the Murex Trunculus over all other chilazons, and there's only 3 in the Mediterranean. The other ones live in other places. The Murex Trunculus is strikingly different than all these other ones, because the Murex Trunculus is not just the dibromo indigo, it's a whole mixture. There's a lot of plain indigo in it, and it ranges from time to time, but there's a lot of plain indigo in it, and there's also a lot of monobromo indigo, which is only 1 bromine, and that monobromo is much easier to turn turn monobromo indigo from the purple or red to blue.
It means to ask, let's say from the Branderis, Murex, and the others, would it be possible for Techeiles?
So would it be possible is a very good question that I was not planning.
If it would be possible for Techeiles, then you have the same question. Why did Chazal say those things are possible?
Yeah, so
that's what I think is the...
So what I'm saying is that it's a very good question, which I was not planning on discussing tonight, if those things are possible. There are many Talmudic Chachamim that would think that that's kosher. If you think that a Moroccan esrog and Taimani esrog could both be kosher, then you would probably have to think that the Murex Trunculus and Brandaris is also kosher. But what I said before, I think I already answered that explanation that you're giving of this question. And I was saying that it's not clear that in the time of Chazal, it's possible, it's an open question, but I don't know for sure if in time of Chazal it was easily doable or possible to make blue out of the Brandaris. Now when I get later to the Bryce of Gufa de Muliam, Bios de Mudaga, I'll explain more reasons to reject the Brandaris.
So that would be an answer why they didn't mourn for these other 2, because at that time they didn't know.
It's possible they didn't know, it's an open question. It's an open question.
It's very difficult.
Rabbi Cheskel is a big mumche in that. He's saying it's very difficult. So that's what I was saying. The one they found just off Mexico is nothing new. It's just another example of the many, many Mureces that are all over the world. I've read about ones found in Australia. I've read about ones in the English Channel or the British Channel, whatever it's called. I read about ones found in Saudi Arabia. All these things, the Shayas Shavas, they have this dibromo indigo. With the right chemicals these days, it's very easy to make blue. So the guy that went to Mexico, he put in all those marine chemicals and made it blue. There's no chachma to that. A researcher in Eretz Yisrael went and took the Murex Brandaris also and made a bunch of, by him, it's an interesting thing. It happened to be that about half the time, I don't know how much percent, but maybe even most of the time, the Murex Brandaris came out greenish. And
They're all considered one family.
They're all considered one family, and that's why I was saying that there is an argument to say that if you don't think that something has to be exact, if you hold that a Moroccan esrog and Taimani esrog are both kosher, for esrog, then the Murex Trunculus and Murex Brandaris could both be kosher. It's not the discussion we want to have tonight if every single chilazon is kosher. I want to pinpoint on the Murex Trunculus, but this is a very big open question. There are many Talmudic Chachamim around now that think that the main qualification that you need to have kosher Techeiles is that it should come from a chilazon that makes blue and it will be kosher whatever you get. And it's something to think about. It's not something that I'm going to be machloed on. It's not something that I have a personal opinion very strongly one way or the other. I have thoughts about it, but no. Okay.
The question of kol ila, it's the same chemically.
I'm going to get to that later. Okay. The next thing that he mentioned was that it's expensive, so I think I discussed that already. The next thing he discussed is that not only that they found these Murex Trunculus and Brandaris and Hemastomas also in the excavations, they didn't find any other things. So it seems like it was just this being used. I'm not going to discuss that raya so much. It doesn't speak so much to me. I like focusing more on what was found, not what wasn't found. But I'll just throw into this raya that archaeological excavations, I don't like talking about what wasn't found, but what was research done in the ocean, in the fish in the Mediterranean, is very much not like research of what's going on in the Pacific and everything. When you research what's going on in the Pacific, you'll keep finding new things. In the Mediterranean, Rabbi Yisroel Barkin, who was a tremendous Talmud Chacham, Arbitz Torah, and he was the first one that started wearing this Techeiles back in the late 80s. His research and the mumchim that he spoke to, he concluded that for many years there is nothing new been found in the Mediterranean. So he's working with what's there now, unless you're going to argue that it miraculously swam away. So if you want to hold like that, you could. But working with what we have in the Mediterranean, it's basically all set. Okay, the next thing was for the question of if the Murex Trunculus was used for making blue altogether, which there's those around that want to say it was only used for purple or something like that. So it was publicized about 3 years ago or so that this Dr. Sukanik publicized that they found this textile in Wadi Mubarak, and you have the pictures? I could show it. There's a blue-green textile that was found in these caves near the Yam HaMelech, I think, in this Wadi Mubarak place, and it was chemically tested to have all the components of indigo, mono, bromo indigo, and dibromo indigo, which it's blue-green. It doesn't have any remnant of purple in it, which would seem to, the skeptic is always going to come up with another teretz, but the Kashrus is that would seem to show that the Murex Trunculus, which is unique in possessing mono, bromo, indigo, was used for making non-purple colors in those days, which in this case was blue-green, which the blue-green could have happened because the textiles, or the age of the textile, it turned yellow and made blue-green, or as I was saying, that the Murex itself makes a blue-green, but Al Kaponim, they saw from there that the art of getting out the red from it, that totally getting the red out was something known in those days, which is really no big chiddush because it's really no big chachma to get the red out. And then, so the argument that he said against this,
Times, February 27, 2011.
This is number 5, by the way. Yeah.
Quotes the same scholar as at that find, saying, according to us, we have an analysis that Techeiles appears from that swath to have been closer to a bluish purple.
Okay, so the New York Times thing's in 2011.
February 27.
You don't know anything I don't know about Techeiles, I'm sorry. Okay, the New York Times 2011 was way before this Wadi Mubarak thing was discussed. This was a different thing found in Masada that Professor Cohen, not Dr. Sukanik, found, and that thing was violet blue, and I'm not talking about that thing. And Professor Cohen has his own agenda. Techeiles is purple. That's Chutz L'Kais Beis Medrash. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Wadi Mubarak thing that was presented by Dr. Sukanik at an event that was held in 2013, on December 31st, I think. And I heard her speech about it, and I have her article about it, and that thing has absolutely no purple in it. So I'm just getting to the point that someone wanted to argue that who said maybe there was just traces of bromine, but if you look at the article, someone sent me the article written by Dr. Sukanik, that there's a good chiluk, there's 20% amount of bromo indigo.
Did he say that it might be purple that faded?
No, there's no reason to think it's purple that faded, because any purples from the olden days, the purple stays. So purple, we never find that purple fades. And this, I just said that the fact that it's green could be because because the wool turned yellow. So this thing had 20% amount of bromo indigo and plenty of dibromo indigo. So we're not talking about shirayim of bromine that was left in the vat from a previous dyeing. We're talking about a good chelik of what was happening there. So that was one of the evidence to something which really doesn't even need evidence that was used for blue in those days. Okay. The next thing is a very interesting thing, which was found actually in this chilazon itself. In my Kashrus of Rosenberg who's here. This chilazon climbed in his fish tank in his house in Lakewood. And it went into the sand. It went totally under. He couldn't even find it. It disappeared. How does that happen? So it digs itself under the sand. So this is a Mefurish pasuk. It says in the pasuk in the brachos of Moshe Rabbeinu to Zvulun, it says that Zvulun has Sfune Tmune Chol, and the Gemara says in Megillah that Vav Min Aleph Sfune Zachilazin. Tmune is Trish and the Chol is Chuch Tzavanu. Sfune is Achilazin. So people brought a rye from here that the chilazon is something that hides in the ocean, which is a property found in the Murex Trunculus. I don't know if this is unique to it or not, but it's definitely found in this. That's one thing for sure. I'm not going to build the whole opinion off of this, of course. So the question was that Rashi in Megillah says Fune means Lashon Chashivos. He doesn't say it means hidden. Maybe hidden is only going on Tmunei Cho. So for that, there's 3 points I want to bring out. First of all, Rashi in Chumash says Sefune means hidden. So it could be both hidden and chashuv. Second of all, the Sephornoi in Vizayis HaBracha says befeirish that the hidden is going on the chilazon, that it's hidden. And the main thing I wanted to bring out is that there's a sefer called Psiktas Atrasos, also known as Medrash Lekech Toiv. It's a very old parish from Rishonim or Goinim and Chumash and quotes Midrashim. And it says there, Sfune Tmune Chol Zeh HaChilazon Shesafun V'Tamun B'Chol. The chilazon is something that's hidden in the ocean, so that's case closed. That's clearly identification. I'm not saying that it's a raya, but it's identification given by Chazal for the chilazon. It's something found in the Murex. Okay, now these are the rayas that Rabbi Kleinman Shlita decided by his shir, and there's more rayas that it could be his shir had a limited time. This shir is open-ended. Anyone could go home if they want. But I would like to present about 9 more points maybe that weren't mentioned in his share. And the first thing, very important thing that was not mentioned, and maybe there wasn't enough time, was that many achroinim say befeirish that the purpura is the chilazon. This is something that should not be ignored. That if the Silti HaGibayim from Ravam HaRaife, not the same one from the side of the Rif, says that purpura is the chilazon, later and closer times to our times, Reb Shanshofar Hirsch in the pasuk Sfune Tmunei Chol. In the original German, it says Sfune Tmunei Chol. He says that it's talking about the chilazon, and he says the purpurschneck. Purpurschneck is the German for the purpura. Now you can look in Rav Hirsch Chumash, and you're not going to find it because the translators didn't know what purpurschneck means. So they said something about argamon. Now tell me when purpurschneck. Schneck means a snail in German, with purple snail means argamon. Okay, he's talking about Techeiles, chilazon for Techeiles. Another one says min, I don't know what. And another translation, which was put out by an anti-Techeiles person, left out the whole idea of purpurschneck. That's very interesting. And he remissed it. Actually, I'm continuing on. I can't have so many questions. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to continue on with the shir. I can't stay here till 1, only till 12. Okay.
For various things.
Rabbi Cheskel, we have only till 12 here, not till 1. Rabbi Shanshofar Hirsch writes in the original German, which is available online in libraries, that chilazon is purpurschneck. The Taifes Reim says purpurschneck. There is discussion of other achroinim that want to question this. So of course there is discussion of achroinim, but there are achroinim that say befeirish chilazon is a purpurschneck, or something that definitely has to be taken very seriously. And Rabbi Yaakov Emden, it has a whole arichos where he says that the chilazon Techeiles is the same exact thing that the Anshe Tzor would use, Vein Tzor V'Cheifa. That's the same thing. He doesn't use the word purpurschneck, but it's very, very obvious what Rabbi Yaakov Emden is talking about. That he says that the chilazon Techeiles is the same chilazon that was used made Tzor that the Anshe Tzor used. At the same place where Shevet Zvulun was, which I want to speak about, and where Shevet Zvulun was. And there's no doubt in the world that Rabbi Yaakov Emden identified the Techeiles with the same purpura that's discussed in the Pliny and everything. I didn't want to talk. Okay. That day is also attributed to the Chavis Yar. It's another discussion about the whole thing with Chavis Yar. Is bringing out the most clear Maram Kaimis about it. Okay. Now, there's another thing that the suggestion that the Murex is Techeiles is based on the assumption that Techeiles is all Kasef and Techeiles are all famous world metals. If we would lose Kasef and we could go back and see that there's 3 famous golds used in antiquity and one of them fits with silver and fits with everything about silver, then we could probably identify that as Kasef. So Techeiles are going to Lashani, we could assume they're the same things. We don't have any Gemara that says L'Shaita Haya Nivra like it says by a Tachash, so we're assuming that Tachash is an exception. Tachash itself, some of you here might know the theory of Amitei Ben David Shlita Sichas Chulin that says that it's a draft, which would mean that even that L'Shaita Haya Nivra means it was brought in to Moshe Rabbeinu in the Midbar, Al Darch Nes from Africa, but still not, and Kar Kodmei Terba Amitei Ben David, a sefer from Shal Shuvus Rashban, written in 100 years before. Okay, but the partial assumption is that Zav Techeiles, the Zav Kasef and Techeiles, Techeiles are going to Lashani, and I'm saying even Tachash possibly, that they're all regular known things in the world, which would mean that Techeiles is a known thing. We're going to be looking for the things that were known. Now we're going to say that the other raya to this idea is that Techeiles was not just a special religious thing used for tzitzis from some kind of mysterious creature, but rather from the regular chilazon used in the world. Is the Gemara in Eruvin that's Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph, I think, maybe some Beis, says about the chilazon, about Techeiles from the chilazon. It's talking about same Techeiles as kosher for tzitzis. It says that maybe you find something in the street, you don't know if it's tzitzis or maybe it was made for a shirt. Adaita de glima tzav inhu. You could find Techeiles in the street, you don't know if it's from tzitzis or used for regular clothing, which means that Techeiles was something used also for the rich people, of course, for regular clothing. So, which would point us to be looking for something that's normally used, not something extremely obscure. Okay, the next raya that Techeiles was, we're talking about a well-known thing, because the Medrash says, Kechu mi zimras ha'aretz. Yaakov Avinu told the Shvatim to bring to Yosef, who was not known yet that he was Yosef, to bring him a present from the Zimras Haaretz. What's the Zimras Haaretz? The Medrash says Zvarim Shem Zamrim Ba'olam, the famous things that everyone sings about in the world. And it says the example is Chilazon. And then we're going to add on to that something I mentioned before, is that Rishonim quote this Medrash and add on to this Medrash Chilazon Shetzayvim Menu Svarim Harveh. Chilazon that makes many colors, which is the Murex obviously makes many colors. I wanted to show over here that the Murex Trunculus makes a beautiful purple also, besides for a beautiful blue. It makes Murex Brandaris. You'll get more of a redder color from it. You could get many different shades from it, which is the identification of the Chilazon given by Chazal through the Rishonim.
It has to do with the way it's prepared, with the way it's sung?
It has to do with the way it's prepared. It has to do with the chemicals that are put in, which the chemicals don't give the color, but they could be bring out different kaiches. The Murex Trunculus itself, it changes from time to time. There's Murex Trunculus that have more red and have less red. So you'll have different colors. There's people that work. You could get the greenish from it, or maybe even a pure green from it. You could. So there's plenty of stuff you could get from it, and obviously the Techeiles that we're going to get is blue.
So it's not blue blooded. It's definitely.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about the color of the blood later. The blood is a very thick concentration. Which
This mentions 14 shades, no? 14.
I don't know if that exists or not. The facts are that there's many shades. I don't have to quote him on the facts. I never saw that inside. Okay, another interesting point is that there's another interesting thing I'll say with that Rav Herzog Zichrono Livracha did a lot of research on the Techeiles, and he spoke a lot about the Murex Trunculus, and he didn't accept it because of some reasons that got to later, which are reasons that were be'ikr because he didn't see it alive, as far as we know, and he didn't really experiment with it, so he didn't have all the facts totally straight about it. So he was doing it more from the books. If he would see it straight, he would see the questions. A lot of his questions wouldn't even start. But Rav Herzog really thought that the Murex Trunculus should be the Techeiles, because in all the writings of all the Goyim from that time that wrote encyclopedias, imagine you have all encyclopedias talk about all the things that you make dye in the world, and there's only one family of sea snails that are used for making dyes, the Murex family. There's nothing else mentioned. There's no zeicher of anything else. And if there was something else used for Techeiles, if it was like his akasha, he suggested the janthano out of desperation. He suggested the janthano because it fit better according to his understanding. But he said he was aware that there's a big problem with that. The janthano is not mentioned anywhere. The janthano is not mentioned anywhere in any of the encyclopedias. To say that there was a whole mass production of something not mentioned in encyclopedias is somewhat of a question. He didn't think that was the worst question in the world. Obviously, he said with all due respect to Aristotle, he could have forgotten things, but he says there with all due respect to the but Im Kol Zeh, he considered that to be a strong raya, and being that we have answers for all his questions and more rayas, and we built up the case much better, that raya should be added also. The next thing is that you mentioned before about the color of the blood, that it's not blue-blooded. The blood has in it the koyach of red in it, the bromine, and you do a process of debromination, which I want to get to later. There's many ways of debrominating it, besides for the two well-known ways. There's at least another two ways I know about, and there might be more. But basically, when you're making Techeiles, you're taking the blue out of it. So you're taking the red out of it. So, okay, I don't have the lashon of the Zohar here, right here. I'm not going to quote you the words of the Zohar, I don't have the words, but there is such idea mentioned in the Zohar. You could always say that it's not kipshutai, but the straight reading of the Zohar is that when you're making Techeiles, then the red is getting separated. It says that the Gavin Sumak gets separated from the Techeiles when it's being produced. So it's mefurish as Zohar, unless you're going to say that it doesn't mean kipshutai or something, but it is mefurish in the Zohar that the red color gets separated when Techeiles is produced, which is something that we see in the Murex. Another point is that the Murex has this quality that you find in the Gemara and Daf Ayin Hey Menaf and Shabbos, about that when the chilazon dies, then you're going to lose quality of the dye. The dye is going to soak in, and Rabbi Yisroel is here, is going to, maybe when we're done, he'll give a lengthy discussion if anyone's interested. In the Metzias, he's very, very well experienced in the Metzias of the Techeiles. It's something that's well known. It's documented also by the ancient writers about it, but it's a well known thing about the Murex that you have to keep it alive. You don't want it to die. And I'm just going to throw in here something that this whole theory with that it takes 2 hours and everything's good after 2 hours. I made a lot of drishas for chakiris, and that thing was made up b'hashara b'alma, and a scientific hashara was not said based on testing. So to me, that is totally meaningless.
What do you mean, but after 2 hours?
There was a thing there was information going around that you could have a dead chilazon, you shecht it, you stun it, you kill it. You have up to 2 hours you could take the blood out of it, and you're still fine. Only after 2 hours the clock starts ticking. So there was a question was asked that what do you have to keep it alive for? You have 2 hours. So I'm just trying to say that 2 hour thing, after all my investigating, it came up. It could be quoted in 2 places, 6 places. It could be quoted in 100 places. It's not going to make a difference if it's a hashara ba'alma. Then it doesn't exist. We go with the facts, not with the hasharas. The facts are from Rabbi Yisroel. I hope will explain to us after. That's something that's well known to Rabbi Yisroel. That if it dies, then you run into problems. It's well known to the ancient dyers also. It's mentioned in Pliny, I think, and maybe in Aristotle also, other books, I think. That they had this problem. If it dies, then if the chilazon dies, then the dye sac, it could get absorbed into the snail. It could lose quality. You have to extract it from the snail. Some people say that the spitting out means that spits out means that it gets spit out of the dye sac into the fish tank, which is something we see that when they die, it goes into the fish tank or into the basar of the chilazon, which is what causes you to have a harder time, and the quality of the sphere is going to be worse, and it's not going to be the late sil tziveh that we're looking for, the marish tziveh tzlula that Rashi says. You're not going to have a good tziveh.
Does the processing of the chilazon for Techeiles kill it? Is there tzar b'chaim in the actual?
The process of making the Techeiles will kill it. You have to make a big cut into its body. For tzar b'chaim, it's going to be like any time they do things with tzarech ha'adam that it's mutter. And actually, my Kashrus or Rabbi Yisroel has written just recently a long tshuva with many reasons why there's no tzar b'chaim in it, and I think it's going to be published soon somewhere, so you'll get to see that. Yeah, we meet. But the question was asked by a prominent Rav if you're Tzar Baruch Chaim, we should rather look for ways to do without Tzar. So he wrote a big tshuva, which will be. But the facts are, yes, it's going to die from it, which is what the Gemara says. It's a psikration that it's going to die.
Which is that it's very low, the feeling of Tzar.
Yeah, okay, we're not getting discussion with Tzar Baruch Chaim. Again, we don't want to be here till 1. We don't want to be here till 1. The 12 is the limit, okay? Now, the other thing which I touched on before a few times, I'm going to bring out a little more, is that Techeiles is something that's that it seems from the Psukim it was a regular world product, just like gold and silver, and not only in Chumash it's like that. You have in Sefer Yechezkel, Techeiles ve'argaman b'iyah li'toy mechasich. You have in Sefer Yirmiyah, Techeiles, and you have in Sefer in Esther. Techeiles is something used by everyone, and the Kashrus is that Techeiles that was used for very special royal things is the Techeiles from the Chilazon. The Ibn Ezra in Esther clearly assumes like that we're talking about Techeiles from the Chilazon. It's not mistaber to say that the Chirum Melchor was importing indigo from, or Achashverosh was wearing indigo because it was considered to be very low quality in those days, which again would tell us to go look for a world class dye, which the Murex was, and it was the only one. Next thing is that from the description, the Gemara about Gufa Daimiliyam. Can you pass over the pictures? All the books. From the description, the Gemara Gufa Daimiliyam, Briyasa Daimil Dag, which is the two descriptions you have about the Chilazon itself. The rest of the Brisa tells you things that the Chilazon does. I think points pretty clearly to the Murex Trunculus out of any other snails that live in that area. Some people went and turned this into a kasha, but I think that's like the Gemara says by Eve. He thought Eve ba'ev niskalef. You know, someone said Eve ba'ev niskalef. A proper understanding of that Gemara that's not warped and shitchistic is gonna bring us to say that the gufa daimiliyam, you take it out from the ocean, it has the greenish on it. If it's not green, then whatever it is, even if it's not green, it's always going to go into it's always going to go into the seabed. It's going to look the same color. I'm going to speak about this later. I just wanted to say it very bekitzer as a raya. The briyosai doimo dag is that it has the shape of a fish. When you hold it, you have the real chilazons. The shells. Yeah, keep it. It has briyasa doimo dag. It has the tzura of a fish. It has at the end like a head is narrow, gets wide like a fish, and at the end has a tail. Can you bring the other ones, please? All of them. It's a wide thing. This one you see it better. It doesn't have as many spikes in it. You can see that some tzura of it better. A fish has the tzura of a regular fish, of a standard fish. We're going to speak later that fish can mean anything in the water, but there's also such a thing as a standard fish. Both things are true facts. And the fish, standard fish, not the coleistic fish, is something that has the head at the end, the sharp head. It gets wide, sticks out, and it has a tail at the end. That's the tzura of the chilazon, of the Murex Trunculus. It's not unique to the Murex Trunculus davka, but it's other snails have it also. But there's plenty of snails. Maybe most snails do not look like this. I was in there in 1 second. I was in there in the place where they catch the Murex Trunculuses, and I saw snails right there by the shore that were totally round. So you have all different shapes. Someone here came with pictures of many different shapes of snails that you could have. So although there's other snails that have the shape of the Murex Trunculus, but when you're looking in the area of looking for the Techeiles and you're looking for the chilazons that give dye, the Murex Trunculus is boilet in its weight as briyasa daimil dag and it's gufa daimil yam. So that, in my own opinion, should be considered as a raya to the Techeiles.
Of Mexico has this tzura or not?
I don't know what that one looks like, but I know what similar.
It's somewhere in between not the Badal, is the third one. Somewhere in between.
Okay, now we're dealing with chilazons from.
Assuming that you need to kasher, So then maybe the other one's not going down.
Yeah, that's part of the discussion. Part of the discussion, which I didn't want to get into tonight, if other chilazins, if the other brandaris and other ones are kosher, is that it's possible that this simon is pointing us dafka to the trunculus. Just 1 second. It's pointing us dafka to the trunculus, and that would be a simon pointing us to the trunculus to dafka use the trunculus. But it could be it's a simon pointing us to the trunculus because it's the most practical and not to pass the other one. So that's it's an open question in my opinion. I just want to have these little snails here. You can just see the nartika gadolima that was mentioned all the way in the beginning. You can see how you have the babies, and they get bigger, and they get bigger, and they get bigger, which was with this chilazin actually in a fish tank in Lakewood. It's here for 3 years already, 2.5 years? 2.5 years. The shell is hard. I couldn't pull it out. I can't get my fingers in there. If anyone has thin hands, maybe they could pull it out though. Anyone wants to offer? I have paper towels here also. But its shell keeps going around and around, which is Rashi's. Doimel liyam is because whenever you look at it in its natural state, it's always going to. There's two oifanim as doimel liyam. There's one oif as doimel liyam that when you look at the chilazin, you see a piece of the yam. The yam means we have to learn some Hebrew here. Yeah. So yam means seabed. So you think. Okay. But I'm going to explain everything over here. Okay.
The same exact.
I told you 5 questions, okay? I'm going to explain everything. Excuse me. I'm going to explain everything here. Could everyone have patience, please? Okay? The ikar word yam, there's words that are used as an ikar word and as a lashon mushal. The ikar word yam means seabed. That's what we're told by the Ramban, by the Heilige Ramban. The first time the Torah says the word yam, the Ramban tells us that the ikar word yam means seabed. Other times where the yam means not seabed, it is a borrowed term. The ikar word yam means seabed in Lashon HaMikra. In Lashon HaMishnah also yam means seabed. There's Mishnayos and Kalim about the yam nafo ukvara. There's a chefza. It's a big holder. Yam nafo ukvara. Yam in Lashon Mikra and Lashon Mishnah. The ikar meaning is seabed. If you find places it doesn't mean that, those are exceptions. The exceptions could be more than the ikar. This is what the Ramban says. It's not just the Ramban somewhere like someone once said. It's a Ramban, the first Ramban in Chumash where the Ramban tells Zavek what the word means. The first place has a lot of significance in itself, and the Ramban says that.
But the same Gemara says.
It's not the same Gemara that says Techeiles Doimel liyam. It's a different Gemara.
7 lines apart.
You know, let's take out the Yalkut Shimoni, and the Yalkut Shimoni on one page. The Yalkut Shimoni, you're over about Taisif, by the way, up to number 6 or 7. The Yalkut Shimoni could quote us a Medrash Tanchuma. In the next line, the Yalkut Shimoni could quote us Medrash Rabbah. In the next line, the Yalkut Shimoni could quote us the Gemara. In the next line, the Yalkut Shimoni could quote us a Medrash Abchir. Yeah, the what? Yeah, this is Chilazin also. You can see the green in it. And I'll add on that the green doesn't come off. You can brush and brush away, and the green here, and the green doesn't come off. Now, the Yalkut Shimoni brings from everything in different lines. You should know that Talmud Bavli brings Braisas, brings the memories from Amiram. The Talmud Bavli on one page brings a memory from the Tanaim about the color of Techeiles Doimel liyam, and over there it's using the borrowed word thing. And there's a different place in Talmud Bavli, and there's no Hekeshim in Talmud Bavli. This isn't Chumash. There's no Hekeshim. It could be one line after it's quoting a different thing. One is a memory from Tanaim, and one is another memory from Tanaim. They're coming from different places of Techeiles Doimel liyam. And Gufa Doimel liyam are not the same Gemaras, and they could be one line after the next. There's no din of Hekesh in Gemaras. The Gemara is the same as the Yalkut Shimoni. It's Baal b'Mikra Mishnah of the Talmud, Talmud Bavli, and it could quote from anywhere. And there's no such thing as making a Hekesh. That's absolutely okay. Fine. Next, we're going to go into discuss the questions that were brought up by Harav Kleinman Shlita from the Gemara. Now, question number 1, which came from Rav Yisroel Barkin Shlita, was the question was asked that could you catch the Murex Trunculus with nets? And the answer is that you could, so the whole question is put to rest. Right now, right here, there's no more question because you could. Now, I'll try to discuss a little bit more because the ASIC was made out of the question that all you have to do is put out a net. It says, you're kosher no matirin. Sayal de chilazin kosher no matirin, Rashi says, rishasis. The way you make nets is that you're kosher matter. That's what Rashi says. The derech choisi rishasis, I think Rashi says, that you're kosher and you're matter. You tie the nets and you open it up to make it bigger and smaller. And when you want to catch murex, you're going to put out bait for it, and it's going to come into the net. and you're gonna pick up the net after, and that's gonna be a chiv malacha of tzeda, which could give another 3-hour share about that. I'm gonna touch on it a little bit, but not too much soon. And there's another way that you could drag nets across the bottom of the ocean with boats to catch them, and that's another way. It's done these days. I would say it could be done in the time of the Gemara also. So there's 2 ways of catching them with nets. It's a simple thing to do, and there's absolutely no question from the Rishashos. If someone wants to use it as a raya, it's not a raya either, because you could catch many things with the Rishashos, but there's no question. Okay. I can get there. If I forget, then remind me when I'm done with the Gemara.
Supposed to answer a question of mitzvah v'oimid.
We can get into the v'oimid. That's next question. Question number 2. Question number 2. That the Gemara says that tzad chilazon you're chayiv in malacha of tzeidah. And the question was that you have an animal that you could jump and you could catch it in one lunge, chad shechia. So chad shechia, the Gemara is actually talking about that you already enclose the animal, and the enclosure is so big that you could catch it in chad shechia. So then it's already need to divide is no more chiyav tzeidah, and the answer is that to ask this kasha, you have to argue with the rishonim. So when someone's asking kasha and argue with the rishonim, then we could tell him save the lumdus for a different time, but the kasha didn't start. And the reason you argue with the rishonim is because the rishonim say the chilazon is a teras, and the rishonim are mavor the chilazon is a snail. So that's too bad because the chilazon is a snail, and we're stuck with it with what we're mukabel from the rishonim. Next reason why it's against the rishonim is because there's shmoynes shratzim ha'amurim b'Torah, and one of them is a chaymet. Okay, now one of them is chaymet. Who says that a chaymet is a snail? Rashi says the chaymet is a snail. The Ravid says the chaymet is a snail. The Meiri says the chaymet is a snail. The Sefer Ikrim says it's a snail. And the Droshish Rabbi Yehuda ibn Shuab says it's a snail. And the Radak brings up pshat that it's a snail. That's all I know right now. That many Rishonim, Beroish on Rashi, and the Ravid, Gedolei Rishonim say the chaymet is a snail. There is Seidah on a chaymet. Obviously, there's Seidah on a slow-moving thing also in some cases. The next question is why is not a question on the Murex Trunculus. It's a question on the Rishonim, which I could talk about a little bit, but Rabbi Kleinman explained already, and he even accepted this answer, that when you have, and this answer, going to Moshe Mordechai Karp Shlita writes this, and Paskins L'maisa, and Paskins B'Shemer Eliashiv, that it's also to catch them because of this reason, because an animal that its ikar chiyas is moving slowly, that animal has different gedarim of tzeidah than other animals, and that's one suggestion. There's other ifanim by the lamdanim to discuss it, but that's for it's a separate lamdus. Has nothing to do with. I shouldn't say it has nothing to do with halacha, because you'll find cases that have nafkaminas, but for chilazon itself, the question is already put to rest right away. Almost. We're going to get to how the question pops back up in a second. But the question that pops back up, I had one more thing I want to be moisef, is which thing?
One of the answers.
Taisus Rid, yeah, I think I want to be moisef something about this, but I don't know what it was. The Taisus Rid, I'm going to say that. The Taisus Rid, I had something to be moisef about these Rishonim, but we'll leave that out now, it's not in my notes. The Taisus Rid argues with Rashi, said, how could Rashi say chaymet's snail? Chaymet goes so slowly and there can't be a chiv tzeidah. So the means that Taisus Rid says there can't be a chiv tzeidah on a slow moving animal. So the answer was suggested that even the Taisus Rid is talking about a chaymet as a land snail. Obviously, all the shmoynes shratzim are land animals. That's before Rosh Mishnah. All shmoynes shratzim are land animals. A sea snail is much harder to get. So you can't get a b'chad shechia because it's deep in the ocean. So Rabbi Kleinman asked a very valid question. He said that you find them close to the shore, 15 feet down, people could catch them. So it still needs to v'ayimid because it's still b'shlitas yidei adam. But the answer to that question is that it's really not true that it's just 15 feet down, because in a time when chilazons are being mass produced, anything that's near the shore would for sure be depleted right away. And Murex Trunculus lived. I got a letter from the professor Ayod Spanier from Haifa University, marine biologist, that has done a lot of work in the Murex Trunculus and other things. And he said it's found from 2 to 22 meters deep. 22 meters is 72 feet. You could check it up. 72 point something. You catch me on that. And that means that whenever in a time when mass production of murex is being done in Eretz Yisrael, then your murex supply is going to be much deeper in the ocean, deeper than where a regular diver could go. Even if a special diver could go down to place where they are, so he's know where to put the nets, he's going to be down there for a second. He's not going to be able to catch them. It's slippery down there. They blended to the seabed, as we said. and it probably gets darker as you go lower down. Also, Mustam, I don't know if that's true. There's high water. It doesn't get. Okay, so it doesn't get, but there's high pressure, and it's a big chacham of a diver. The Gemara mentions divers. It says they had Bar Maroi. They would tie corals onto the bottom of the oceans and to the bottom of the boats to go rip them out of the ocean. So you could have a diver, but diving is not the way to get to the chilazon. It's out of the rishus of people, and it is very tachin that besides that the Techeiles rid is a single rishon against these many rishonim that I said the whole like Rashi, the Murex Snail. It's very tachin that when we're dealing with the deeper ones, which we are, and any time when they're being commonly caught, then the Techeiles rid would agree that there's a chiyuv tzeda. The next question was that there's a chiyuv disha when you take the blood out of the chilazon, and there's a question that there's a shear for disha. Now, once someone asked the question, there's a shear for disha of gregaris. It says in the Rambam is shear of gregaris. Rabbi Kleiman didn't ask the question. The reason he didn't ask it because that's a very silly question. Because the Rambam says gregaris, and the Kesef Mishnah says that gregaris is only on food items. So even though that question was brought up, but that's not a question for people that look in the Kesef Mishnah. But he asked a more valid question that the shir disha should be like the shir of Hitzah, which is sit kafel. It's a few tfachim. He mentioned, I think, different shitas rishonim sit kafel. So he wanted to know, could you get from one chilazon and sit kafel? And we're going to ask Rabbi Cheskel, could you get from one chilazon and sit kafel?
What?
Could you get from one chilazon 4 tfachim of string? From one chilazon, could you get enough tseva to make 2 tfachim or 4 tfachim of the string? Without shazira, a plain chut. Yes, so Rabbi Cheskel says you could, the Mumche says you could, and I was told also that for a full string of Techeiles, Kafel Shemayin, you need 8 to 10 chilzainis. So if you need 8 chilzainis, that means that one chilazon is going to get you a 5-foot string of Techeiles, which is way more than a sit kafel. So that question never even started. It was just more of a wonder than a question. The bigger questions about disha and petzea are what petzea means exactly.
What's the problem with disha? This is not being done on Shabbos. What is it?
No, okay. So I'm speaking a little too fast. But the Gemara speaks about if you would be petzea chilazon and Shabbos, it says you would be over an isra of disha, and it says in Mechoikos. Some say you're not over on disha because it's not geduli karka. So that was the question people wanted to know: if you have enough blood in the chilazon to be the shear of disha, and the answer is yes, without any suffix. Okay. Just quickly.
I thought it's not the blood, though. It's
yeah, but it's called blood. It's a body secretion. You have many times that Chazal and Rishonim that they call blood. You call blood lashon hashala. So it's a body secretion. It speaks about Lord Dvor and the Keteiles from a kind of deer. It calls it blood, and there's different examples. That wasn't even one of the questions that were brought up that I was going to even address, even though there are people who asked the question. Okay. The Petzia itself, I'll just speak out quickly that it's a question if the Petzia was cracking the shell or smashing the chilazon itself. So Rashi and Rambam says that the Petzia is which he's comparing it to Petzia Goizim, which might be mashma Rashi and Rambam holds as cracking the shell. And right how you know, of course, that Rashi and Rambam holds that there's only that the Gemara is speaking about a avmalach of disha, not a tolda of disha, based on Rashi and Rambam. I'm just saying this quick. I can't get into this whole drasha, but there's other rayas from Rashi and Rambam that the disha would be talking about cracking the shell. So all the Rashi and Rambams on disha's chilazon should be consistent with each other. Rashi Meidachisa says that the disha of the chilazon, the petzia of the chilazon, is doiche biyadi kadei she'etzedamai. So come along, all the people, all the mefakfikim, and say, how do you push this with your finger so the blood should leave it? And the question was already asked to the Avnei Nezer, so we don't have to be able to deal with this question. You could just look there, and the Gleital, and he answers it already. But anyways, that's B'chal not a question. He accepts that the chilazon could have a shell, and he answers the question. I'm going to tell you the answer very quickly. But the main thing you should know is that the Gleital accepts that according to Rashi, the chilazon has a shell, and he explains that there's 2 shells to crack. You have to crack the shell, and then you have to crack the chilazon itself, break it. So there's no chiv disha on the outer shell. There's only chiv disha when you actually break through to get to the place where you're trying to get out the chayfetz that you're being dosh. So it's only after you break the shell that you could smash the worm which is inside it. So the Petias Chilazim fits both with Rashi and Rambam and Rambam. Rambam and Rambam would disagree with that and hold that there's a Chiv Dish even on the outer shell, like some Shitas hold, right? Was it? Okay. Now the next question was that the Gemara says in Menachos about Hayat Chelte Chutzavisula, and the Gemara gives the whole description of the Tzvia, and the Gemara gives a description of how to do the test to make sure the tzeva came out good and everything, and the question was that the Gemara does not mention to put it in the sun, but the answer is partially mentioned before that putting it in the sun is besides that wasn't really the point of the Gemara to discuss every single part of the tzvia. I think the main point was to tell us about the bedika and the egg and the te'ima and the psul. You can look there. I'm just talking quickly for people who saw the sugya. If not, many of the other questions are less sugya involved, so you can just focus on those. But just quickly, I think that the Brisa wasn't really coming for that point to tell every single part of the question doesn't start. But moreover, there's really many ways to make it blue, and you can make it blue by boiling the wool at any time. Not only while it's deoxidizing. Someone found that you can make it blue by cooking it in seawater. And one of the main ways of making blue is Rabbi Yisroel discovered that it would turn blue even indoors without any of the tricks if he boils the vat before you put the wool in for extra time at a certain stage. Maybe Rabbi Yisroel will explain to us more later. But Rabbi Yisroel discovered that when he boiled the vat at one of the stages in the preparation of the dye, then the tzeva would turn blue without doing anything else, which would fit perfectly because the Gemara says you're marstechinam lei, and then the question that people wanted to ask against the chilazim from this Gemara, against the Murex, would turn from a question into a character correlation. I'm not going to call it a raya. Okay.
He said that they made it indoors.
Oh, I forgot the indoors. Okay. Now Professor Cohen made up a theory, a scientific theory that it has to be made indoors. That has to be made indoors in order to make the whole reduction in the olden days without chemicals, because he said that oxygen fights against reduction process. Now, that true action fights against reduction process. It doesn't mean it has to be covered, and it's Professor Cohen's theory. And I could go on to describe why the theory is wrong, but why should I discuss why the theory is wrong? I'll just say that Rabbi Shlomo Teitelbaum, that wrote the Sefer Lulas Techeiles, he did his own test. He did reduction. He took down of a murex. He mixed in honey and lime without covering it. Put it in the sun. It got reduced. It came out blue without covering it. All natural stuff. So we don't have to talk about theories. It's not true. It's Professor Cohen's own theory that you have to cover it, and that's his own theory. And you can't ask questions from a theory.
John Adams, he says fakir.
Yeah. And then John Edmonds, who did a lot of tests on this murex for his own hobbies, covered it davka to make it because he wanted it to come out purple, because he wanted it to come out blue. He didn't cover it because it wouldn't work. He was doing a natural thing. He was doing, I think, the recipe that takes a few days, and the reason he covered it was just so it should turn purple, because if you don't cover it, it's going to turn blue. And it's been fakir. And yeah, he said it. He said I have to cover it, because if you don't cover it, indirect sunlight could hit it. You're dealing with very shaky ground if you want to make purple out of the Murex Trunculus. It's going to be tough for you. I'll just add in. It happens to be I was in Eretz Yisrael just after Pesach, and I went to one of the other Techeiles factories. Two Techeiles factories. There's Rabbi Yisroel's and there's the Psil Techeiles. I went by Psil Techeiles, and they put in a demonstration for my 3-year-old. For me, there would be no point in putting a demonstration. I saw these things 100 times, but they put in a demonstration for my 3-year-old, and he did what he does usually. He takes half of the tzeva and half of the vat and puts it in the dark and half of it in the light, and you're expecting that the part that you put in the dark is going to turn purple, and the part you put in the light is going to turn blue, and he takes them out, and lo and behold, they're both blue. And that's because the purple from the Murex Trunculus is a very shaky thing. You can have times where it'll give you a straight blue even in the dark, because it's very shaky. They have different times in their life. There's the Chorm, there's the Nekevis, there might be different places. The whole purple from the Murex Trunculus is a very shaky idea altogether. The Kashrus says that Murex Trunculus is a snail that's for blue, and period. Okay. Now the question was about the bedika of the Techeiles. The question I think maybe people mentioned a few times already. They wanted to know that if the molecules of the Techeiles and the Kali Ilan are the same, then if the molecules of the Techeiles and Kali Ilan are the same, then how could you make the bedika? And the question of Rabbi Kleiman added on more things. He quoted from what is brought down in other places, that there's a number of scientists that described the Gemara's Bedika as a vat dye, and he said as a dye vat, which would reduce what you put in. And he said that Vimeo, even if the indigo would have something that fights against reduction, so if anything, that would make the Bedika and the indigo be harder to be chal, not easier. So, but basically the question was that how's the Bedika working if the chemicals are basically the same? So besides that the chemicals are not the same because there's many differences, and besides that this theory of the scientist that it's a vat is totally made up, I said again, I don't go with the Beichswars from the scientists, we go with empirical evidence that the scientists want to tell us facts. Spaniard told me it's 2 to 22 meters, so I could probably believe him, but a theory from the scientist is worth nothing to me, unless it makes sense. So I don't care if they say it's a reduction vat, and I don't care if they say that theoretically the Bedika shouldn't work. The Gemara says that there's a Bedika, the Gemara says they made the Bedika. The facts are that Kali Ilan used to be, indigo used to be a weaker dye. At the end it was developed a way to make it stronger. We don't know why that happened, but it's a historical fact. If you believe the Rambam and you believe the Ramban, which the scientists probably don't, the Radvaz, but I believe the Rambam says that Istis was a weak dye. I believe the Radvaz was developed a way to make it stronger. It's the same molecules. It was developed a way. How was it developed? You leave that kasha for the Radvaz. Murex Kashrus was always a strong dye. So I mentioned here that the Murex found in very old things, it keeps staying. Murex is known to be extremely strong. And this question B'chlal doesn't start. It only starts for people that are busy making like scientific theories. But in the facts, it's not exactly the same molecules. There are differences. There's differences in the bromine. There's differences in the indirubin, and the facts are that there's differences. There's theories also that the chilazin, the basar of the chilazin helps the reduction. That theory or the other name. But this kasha passes for scientists, not for B'nai Torah to ask.
If you send 2 threads to the laboratory, they'll not. If
you're saying you send 2 threads to the laboratory, they'll detect what's from the Murex because there's other stuff going on there. Okay, now I'm going to touch on a little bit. Anyone could go if they want, by the way. I wanted to touch on the questions. This is a very crucial part of Kleiman Shlita's shir. Was the questions from the Rishonim, and I want to give now a big chunk of time for anyone who's able to stay. I hope the video could stay. So make sure it's on. So if everyone leaves, at least I'll be talking to the video until 12. Okay. So the questions from the Rishonim. Question number 1 was that the Rambam says that the blood is black as Shachar Kediyai. Shachar Kediyai means very black, Shachar Kediyai, and the blood of the Murex is a clear stuff, and the answer is that the description of the Rambam Shachar Kediyai is the accurate description of anyone who's giving a simple look at the Murex when it's cracked open. Let's see if I have the picture here. Do you have the picture? I have, by the way, a bunch of other pictures. This is the Wadi Mubarak textile, by the way, the blue-green textile. Okay. There's a strip here, and this picture happens to look a little bluish, but I could be made myself from seeing it, and Rabbi Yisroel could be made from seeing it thousands of times, that there's always almost always there's a black stripe in the place of the blood, where the blood is. That's the way to identify it, and that's the way to identify the Murex Trunculus. The Murex brandaris has more of a brownish spot there, and when you want to identify the Murex Trunculus, you're going to say that it has the black blood because it has the black spot there where the blood is, and I think Rabbi Yisroel could expound on this terrace and explain it more mitzad the Metzias, what shaykhus that spot has to do with the blood from his vast experience. But from my limited experience, I'm just going to put the terrace like that and continue on. If you don't accept it from the way I'm saying it, you'll hear the way Rabbi Yisroel is going to explain it. Going to explain the same idea from a more experienced perspective. Okay, and the next question was that the Rambam calls the chilazain a dag. So Rabbi Kleiman, dag would seem to be a swimming fish, like we Jews who don't eat shellfish, so we don't talk about shellfish too much. So we just talk about goldfish as we have in our fish tanks, except for Rosenberg, who has a Murex in his fish tank. But Jewish people don't eat shellfish think that dag means a goldfish. So how could the Rambam talk about a snail that's a dag? And the answer is, Rabbi Kleiman himself mentioned that the Gross says befeish, like the emesis that anything in the yam could be called a dag also. And from, like you're saying, the Gemara itself is mavur that it's not a simple fish, because the Gemara says briosa daimo dag. It has a similarity. It's the shape, by the way. I explained that Al Pi Rashi. That's Al Pi Rashi, by the way. It says briosa means tabnis diuknoi daimo dag. So the Gemara is saying beferish not like that. Now I just want to add in here that even though Rabbi Kleiman said he buys that tarot, but Rabbi Reisman is very Shlita is very adamant. I think maybe not anymore that it's a big kasha, and many other people are. So because of that, I want to take out another minute or two to totally put the kasha to rest. I totally put the kasha to rest. I buried 6 feet under, because we have a Talmud of the Rambam, or one of the Mamshichim of the Rambam. If you didn't see the Rambam himself, he lived in Cairo. I believe he was in Chutin with the Rambam and Rambam, and he was a Talmud Chacham from the Rishonim, and he wrote a lot of Sfarim and Nach, and his name, and you're not going to hear of him. You're probably not going to know who he was because you're not familiar with all the obscure Rishonim, but they were Rishonim. They were great Rishonim from Malachim, and they existed. And his name was Reb Tanchem HaYerushalmi. The Ram had a lot of Talmidim. We have this farm, Rabbeinu Prachia, Reb Shmuel ben Chanal ben Shmuel is out farm, Talmidei Rambam. People don't learn them so much, but those that learn them know to appreciate the farm that are mamshich in the derech of the Rambam. From the Rambam and the Rambam and Rambam's Talmud. And there was a sefer called the Tanchem HaYerushalmi on words. He wrote a sefer explaining words in the Rambam, a sefer in Arabic, and it was translated 2 times into Hebrew, this part of the sefer at least. And you can look at both translations. I saw Xavier of the sefer also, if that helps anyone. I could show it to you. And the Tanchem HaYerushalmi,
The Rambam wrote in Arabic.
the Rambam wrote in Hebrew the sefer Yad HaChazaka. The Tanchem HaYerushalmi wrote a dictionary of words in the Rambam explaining what those words are, what they mean, and he wrote that sefer in Arabic. So if the Rambam says whatever, Shamayim, so he has a whole thing. Shamayim, he'll say Al Asma, or whatever, so the Tanchem HaYerushalmi under Chilazon says, Chilazon means the Tanchem HaYerushalmi from Talmidei Rambam, which we have no business arguing with, says that Chilazon is Al Chazun Ba'arvi Gamkein. Al Chazun Ba'arvi is a snail, obviously. Everyone here knows Arabic, I'm sure. And not only is Al Chazun a snail in Arabic, it's a snail in many Middle Eastern languages. The Tanchem HaYerushalmi goes on to bring down about Nartika Gadol Imai. He goes on to bring about Yorish HaTzlotzal, the klola that the Tzlotzal is, according to the Targum Yerushalmi, is the Chalzuna, that snails would attack someone's produce. And then he goes on to say that the Chilazon of Techeiles is the same, is also one of this min, and has black blood. He goes on. He's paraphrasing the Rambam. So the Tanchem HaYerushalmi says in the Rambam that it's a snail, and no one has any business arguing Tanchem HaYerushalmi, even if they want to argue with the Gra. Okay. The other question was that I explained before that Gufa Demiliyah means either that it looks like the seabed, or that most of the time, or many times, I think most of the time, it also has the greenish color. So the question was asked that the Rambam says in all the prints until Frankel says Eina Techeiles, not Ke'ein Hayam. And Techeiles means that it's blue. And even though there's pro-Murex publications that were writing that the Murex has a blue shell, I found that to be incorrect. And I don't think that's true. I think it's a distortion, unfortunately. I see that the pro-Techeiles people also make their mistakes. I'm here to criticize anyone who says something not true, whoever they are. And I think all the current publications don't say that anymore. But you'll have the green. You'll have one that has a little bit of a turquoise-ish green also, so that could be called blue. So maybe it's not that bad. But basically, you'll just have the green and the other colors of the seabed, not blue. So the question was, if the Rambam says Eina Techeiles means it's blue, and that leaves out the shot to say that Yam means it's seabed or means green, like the top of the sea looks many times, and that is a very invalid question. Many questions are valid. This is an invalid question. It is not valid to ask a question from the prince of the Rambam and say Eina Techeiles if we know 100% for sure that that's a printing mistake. If Frankel Rambam is 100% right, he's based on Rishonim, the Sefer Chinuch and the Smag quote the Lashon Rambam Ein Hayam, and even though Frankel brings one Rishon that has not like that, the Sefer Chinuch and the Smag are more authoritative. And to put the whole question to rest, there's a famous Sefer Hamuga that was written in the time of the Rambam. The Rambam signed off his name on the Sefer. That it's an authoritative sefer, and people should copy out to be Magia the Rambams from the Sefer Hamuga. And in the Sefer HaMuga, it says, Doim ein hayam, and the Rambam signs off that that's the right gears in the Rambam. So the question only goes for that school of thought that says we don't care what the Rambam says in the Rambam. There's some people that think like that, but no, really, there's people that think like that. Okay, but the Chassan not being close to the requirement. He gave a very well presentation, and he probably didn't see in the back of the Frankel what all the Makayers of the Frankel's gears are from, and that's what I'm sharing with Olam here. What the Frankel is coming from, and that I personally looked up in the copy of the Sefer Muga to see this, and it's there, and I don't have a copy of it with me, unfortunately. Okay, the next question was, with this I'll just throw in that the Masechta Tzitzis that says Gufa Doim L'Rakia instead of Gufa Doim L'Yam, just like in the Rambam they made that printing mistake in the Masechta Tzitzis, which is muchzuk for printing mistakes, could also be a printing mistake. And if the Masechta Tzitzis gears, authentic gears is Kein Rakia, then I don't have such a good answer. You could say that blue and green are still similar colors, but you don't have so much of a reason to be so much over the Gersais and Masechta Tzitzis that is very shaky. There's not so many Kisviyad is based on, even though the Kisviyad do say Rakia, the few Kisviyad that there are, but in the Ksaviyad Minchim, Masechta Tzitzis is missing, and there's a mistake. The next line, Masechta Tzitzis says Oilach L'Sheva Shanim, not Shivim. And the people that put out the Masechet Ketanis wrote themselves that they're muchzuk in mistakes. So just like in the Rambam, that mistake could happen in Masechet Tzitzis, we could very well say that the Girsa in the Gemara Gufa de Miliam is the authentic Girsa over the Masechet Tzitzis.
Did you talk about the Sheva Shanim or Shivim Shanim? I mean, what is that?
Yeah. Okay, I don't have written down talk about it. I'll talk about it anyways. I don't know why I don't. I thought I should have. Okay. Oila achas l'shivim shana. The Brisa says, Chilazin zay gufa dom liam b'yasa dom l'dag. Oila achas l'shivim shana l'fikach dom tzevim tcheis l'fikach dom v'karim. So Brisa says about 5 things. And gufa dom liam b'yasa dom l'dag I discussed already. Those are the 2 descriptions about the gufa of the Chilazin himself. The last description, the last description is B'damot Tzayvim Techeiles, which is a Siman Muvak on the Murex is B'damot Tzayvim Techeiles. By the way, that should also be taken into account. It's B'damot Tzayvim Techeiles. It should really be given a lot of consideration, meaning that it is if all the Murex had to say for itself is that it's a Chilazin and it's B'damot Tzayvim Techeiles, that's already enough of a reason that should be given very, very much consideration and a lot of Kovid Roish, even if it didn't have all the other rayas that we're discussing and all the questions didn't start like I'm discussing. But now the Brisa says also Eilach Shivim Shana, and Rashi there says, and I learn everything up here Rashi. That Rashi says that Eilach Shivim Shana is the reason why it's expensive. Meaning when the Brisa says Levikadam Vikarim, it's explaining it's going on Eilach Shivim Shana. The Shivim Shana is the reason why it's expensive. Okay, now the question was that people aren't aware of the Murex coming up every 70 years, and I'm not really sure who it was that stood there for 70 years saying that didn't happen, but it's assumed like that nonetheless. So the teretz was given that the Radvaz says that it doesn't happen b'zman hazeh, and the teretz is mentioned by requirement, and it's mentioned in a lot of Techeiles form, and I do not accept that teretz. I don't think that is plan the Radvaz. The Radvaz is, in my opinion, is talking about a whole different issue. In Sham, it's already getting late, it might be okay, but so I'm not getting into why I don't believe in that teretz. The emes teretz, I think, and I believe this is what I heard from my uncle Belsky, that's how he said something which points to this, and this teretz which I'm about to say, I didn't say yet, all the introductions, is said by the Sefer Ner Aruch, who was a Talmud of the Shalom Meshiv, and the Ner Aruch puts it in very short words. He says, Kiloimar, Lizman Meruba, and after a long time, every once in a very long time, it's Oilai de Ezusiba. So now we're going to explain how that's very consistent with Rashi and consistent with the Murex also. Because the point of the Brisa is that it's very expensive. Why is it expensive? Is it expensive, like some people said, it's so expensive because there's so little blood that's in it? That's shtusim. Because, and they say it takes 80,000 chilazins to make a royal robe, that's why it's so expensive. Right? That's all narishkai, because you could take 80,000 kernels of wheat to make bread also, it doesn't make the bread expensive. Expensive goes by supply and demand, not by impressive numbers that just impress the people that don't think too much. The reason the Murex is expensive is because it's deep down in the ocean, and it goes with great sakanos to get it, which you don't have now, and that's why these days, I'm sorry to say that everyone's saying that even now it's expensive, it's not true. These days the Murex is cheap. because the expense that it was in those days is aimless how expensive it was. Now that you get a set of Techeiles for $40, $50, $60, even $120 for the more expensive ones that are thicker and more strings than Menukas Lashma, it's nothing to what it used to be. And the reason why Techeiles used to be expensive was because you would have to go to the ocean to get it, which is Tzayal de Chilazim the Gemara speaks about. You have to go and be Tzad de Chilazim. So what it means to say Elach Shivim Shana, back to my thing, is that it means Shivim Shana means once in a lifetime. There's many places in Chazal you see Shivim Shana meaning once in a lifetime, like the pasuk says. There's other examples in the Gemara. I'm not going to list them off now. It's getting late, and the point of the Gemara is that Achas Shivim Shana means that it's something that's always in the ocean, and it's only a strange occurrence that's a once in a lifetime thing, like a hurricane or a tsunami or whatever, that it will come up
by itself.
That will come up by itself, and the normal way to get is the going in. And I just spent so long saying this, so I'll just recap in short. Elach Shivim Shana means that the way you get the chilazon is by going into the ocean, and that's what makes it expensive, like Rashi says, because it never comes up, only in a once in a lifetime occurrence. That's in short. I just said very riches. Okay. The next thing is that there's a raya that people brought to the Techeiles that the Rishonim say it's a Techeiles, and it's Naratika Gadol Imai. Could you bring me the picture of Techeiles? So the Murex snail is a worm that has a shell around it. So that was always brought as a raya that Chilazon is a snail.
Was the Rezina ever confronted with the as opposed to going to the conflict with the Trunculus?
That's a whole separate discussion. I read through as far in between the lines, you could tell that he was confronted with it. I'm just going to say very short. I don't want to get sidetracked. I'm going to speak after a question as I go in for 10 minutes about this. But I think that he was, in my opinion, he knew that there was such a theory in the scientific world, and they were saying that Techeiles is purple because they didn't know how to make it blue. So that really annoyed him, and Vimeo he didn't want to even think about it. That's my opinion. Now the Murex has a worm. It's a worm inside a shell. Here we have a picture of one that can everyone see it? I could pass this picture around. Pass it around. So it's a worm that's inside a shell. There's 5 Rishonim that call it Techeiles. There's the Rashi Mishans, the Ravid and the Sifra, and the Ravya and Shabbos. And here's a big picture of the worm without any shell. So that's what the Murex is. The Murex is a worm, kipshutei mamish, with a shell. Yeah. So this was always brought as a raya, and the Ravya and Rav Navi Yeshiva. There's 5 Rishonim called it Techeiles, which would put to rest anyone who wants to say it's a dog. There was a doichik said by the Redziner when someone confronted him with. It was said by the Redziner and it's echoed by Rav Chaim Kanievsky. So to try to be madcha, Techeiles means just such a small fish like a Techeiles, but that's just tremendous doichik in front of all the other evidence that it's a snail. Just gives you a pashup shah and Techeiles. You don't have to say a big doichik. And there's more problems with that doichik also, which I'm not going to discuss right now. But that's really a doichik. It's not really acceptable. The pashas of the Techeiles is Natika Gotlima is that it's a snail. Now. So all these trying to say is the Techeiles is always brought as a raya, but recently, and the Rechaim mentioned it, that they tried to turn it into a kasha. That why you describe this as a Techeiles. So I members don't see the kasha. It was always brought as a raya. It was always accepted by people as a raya. I don't see how it could be turned into a question. They asked the question: why did the Rishonim use the word Techeiles? They could have used the word a word for a chaymet or something or shavlo. So in 3 out of those 5 Rishonim. I said 5 Rishonim: Rashi, the Ravid, the Ravya, and the Rav Navi Yeshiva. In 3 out of those 5 Rishonim, it would be impossible for them to use any other word but Techeiles because of the context of their discussion. They're discussing halachas about different things about Techeiles, or they're trying to discuss the skin of the chilazon, so they're talking about the skin of a Techeiles. So in 3 out of the 5 Rishonim, the question doesn't even start. In Rashi, the question is still open why he uses the word Techeiles. If someone wants to say because Rashi says the word Techeiles and then say Chayim, he wants to not wear the Murex and just reject all the evidence that it's a snail and the fact that it's the chilazon that's in the same place, then he's welcome to. I'm not here to convince people to accept my truth or to wear it, but in my opinion, it is a Techeiles. Rashi could use the word Techeiles. I don't have the exact reason why Rashi was forced to describe it as a Techeiles. I have some thoughts, but
some of them wrote Techeiles.
Yeah, but Rashi says in Sanhedrin. Okay, but Rashi in Sanhedrin, Tzadi Aleph and Aleph says the word Techeiles, and he could have used the word Chaimet there, and that's somewhat of a valid question. If someone's going to use it as a pircha, then I think that he's off mark and there's shikol adas. But you know, all opinions are welcome, and that's what I have to say about this question. I think that it was a valid raya, and it was not fairly turned around to be a question, but. Everyone could figure out themselves. Okay, now with the Petzea, there's another raya also that the snail could be called Techeiles, but it's too much for now. See, everyone's going to be talking to the video camera, which is really okay, but
it has the shape of the Techeiles.
It has, yeah. I didn't say it's. The question is, Rashi and Sanhedrin could have used the word Chaimet. It could use Techeiles. It's also Techeiles. I said this question doesn't bother me. I just said in 3 of the 5 Rishonim they had to say Techeiles because of the context. Okay, now there's a question. There's a Rashi that speaks about Petzeh the other Kadesh Damai that I discussed already. And there was a question that Taisus says that's Mefarchis, so that's a big discussion about that Taisus. I'm just going to say that we have rayas that it's a snail, and Taisus actually says that Taisus that was quoted says Shema Mefarchis. We're not going to ask a question from a Shema and Taisus. We'll ask a question when Taisus says something Vadai. So there's another Taisus that has Mefarchis without the Shema, but the fact is that just being a snail does not set aside the possibility for it to be mefarchis. A snail, it could move, it could do things, it could move around, and I'm not getting into all the technicalities of questions and answers in Taisus, but it's not really a question. It could be mefarchis. There is a possibility of other snails that jump much more. And one time Taisus says Shema, so okay. There was a question that Taisus asked the question that when you do that the Gemara says that there's no nechiv netilas neshama if you kill the chilazon on Shabbos because it's segregation anichla, you don't want it to die. So because it's going to ruin the tzeva. So Taisus asked the question that there's still isser netilas neshama because you take out blood from it, and taking out blood itself, according to Rabbi Tam, is chayvo is told us of netilas neshama. Taisus says in Ksubis. So based on that, Taisus and Ksubas and Taisus and Shabbos, the re-asked of Rabbi Tam that taking out the blood itself should be not a double shem miskaven. It's a double shem miskaven. I think that's what he means to ask of netilas neshama. And Rabbi Tam answered him that the dam is mifkad pocket. It's not its lifeblood. It's stationary blood, which is what you have in the Murex. And a lot of people pointed out that this is where you see the Murex fitting very nicely with the Rishonim, but the question was asked that the Meiri holds that it's a lifeblood, and the Ritva, B'Shem, the Ra, B'Shem, the Ramban, and the Ran also give a different teretz to this question, which would seem to indicate that they don't accept the Rabbeinu Tam. So I want to say a Claudius took a site over here that's negeh for Bucha for the objections of a requirement. He said that we're going with Taisus, and then we won't go with the Mefarchis of Taisus, and then we go with one reason for one thing, with one reason for another thing. So the Techeiles people told him that we don't have to go with the Rishonim because we have the Metzias. Now this whole discussion is totally off. That's not what's happening here. All these questions here are that there's a Mechokes Rishonim and the Metzias. There could be a few different things, and one Rishon could say the Metzias about 3 different nekudas about the Chilazim, about 3 things one way, another Rishon could say 3 things another way. So all these Rishonim are authentic Pirushim in the Sugya, and we're not Chashom coming to argue and to just take the Metzias and to push away the Rishonim. What we're doing is we're using the Metzias to slide by the Rishonim, to take sides with the Rishonim, and not just to push away the Rishonim, is a totally viable way of learning. The Chasam Sofer did that. And we're not going to make a Musar Shmuz against the Chasam Sofer. He had Machlekes Rashi and the Rambam and the Metzias, and he said that the rayas are to Rashi's side, I think. And every single one of these questions, if Rabbi Tam said that it's not the lifeblood, it's mifkad pocket, it's good enough. We're not mechuyev to shtim with both sides. It's impossible to shim with both sides. It's totally impossible. Now, if Rabbeinu Tam would say something else about the chilazon that doesn't shtim, so it's not a kasha, we have to be consistent with Rabbeinu Tam, so how could we go against something else from Rabbeinu Tam? Each machlaikas is its own thing, and our metzias could be mechriya, like one reason for one thing, like one reason for another thing, and everything we're saying is consistent with one of the rishonim, so it's consistent with one of the Divilikim Chaim, with one of the Malachim from the Rishonim Kamalachim, and we're saying things that are totally consistent, and there's absolutely no reason to say that it has to fit with all the Rishonim unless the Rishonim were holding the Chilazon and describing it. But if what the Rishonim was learning up the sugyas, so we want to learn up the sugyas al pi the Rishonim, but we don't have to be consistent only with one Rishon. If the Rishonim were holding the Chilazon and giving different descriptions, then we would want to stem with one Rishon, and if we have different Rishonim, we would stand run into a big problem if they were holding it, because then we would say that there's two different Chilazons. What's happening? There's two Chilazons or there's one Chilazon. Right, and maybe we would be answering that any chilazon is kosher, but that's not what's happening here. The Rishonim are giving us ways they learned up the sugyas, and everything we're saying, we're stemming with one of the Mahalchim and the Rishonim, and it's totally impossible to shem with both Mahalchim. If you think that you have to shem with both Mahalchim, then that gufa is more of like a chutzpah to the Rishonim, because then you're saying that the Rishonim had it, and you're saying that one of the Rishonim really came out to be wrong. We're not saying that. We're saying the Rishonim learned up the Mahalchim and the sugya, and we're going in the ways of the Rishonim and siding with one of the Rishonim with the Metzias, with one reason for one thing, with the Dam, we're siding with the Rabbeinu Tam against the Meiri. The Ramban, the Ra, and the Ritva, and the Ran, it could be that they hold like the Meiri. It's a valid point that it could be they hold like the Meiri. There's more to be mefalpel about it. It's irrelevant because there's already the Meiri. And we could side with the Rabbeinu Tam against the Meiri. For other questions, for Domish Shachar Kediyai, we're siding with the Rambam against Rashi. Rashi says the blood is blue. The blood of the Murex is not blue. So for there, we're siding with the Rambam. For each thing, there's very strong decidedness in the Rishonim. For the issue of that, for the rise that it's a snail, there's very strong rise. Or Tanchei Yerushalmi says Beferish that it's a snail, and other Rishonim say it's a Techeiles, which is going to bring us to say it's a snail.
So there's no one Rishon that you can take through the whole thing.
I think the Rambam you could take the whole way through, but you could take the Rambam doesn't speak about if it's lifeblood or not, so you could just assume that. I think you could take a Rabbeinu Tam through also, because the Shemel Mefarchis, besides for only being a Shemel, I don't even know if that was Rabbeinu Tam talking, it was Taisus talking.
It's clear that Rashi says that the blood is blue. Maybe he's talking about the tzviyah.
The Radina Rebbe wanted to be Deichel, Rashi is talking about the tzviyah. In my opinion, it's a Deichel, and Rashi says the blood is blue.
What's the Lashon?
The Lashon of Rashi is Maris Domei Doimel Ligam. The Radina Rebbe, who was going with Shachar Kediyai, also tried to get out of Rashi, and in my opinion, he said it was a doichik, and you could do okay. You side with the Rambam, and there's absolutely no bizayin to the Rishonim, and it's totally not warranted to claim that you have to go with one Rishon through and through. But besides, like we are with one Rishon through and through, we're through and through with the Binyan Samil Neo. He doesn't say anything about the Techeiles, so I'm assuming. Okay, the whole issue with the Ravid and the Ramami Pano, those that describe the Chilazon. I think Rashi says in Chulun Peitas Menach, if I remember correctly, the Maris Domei Doimel Yam. You could check it up.
Yam mean over there.
Well, Yam would mean the Seabed. There wouldn't really be a description of the blood. So I'm assuming that over there Yam means the blue like a sea. Like I said before, the Yam could mean different things.
Said Yam, it meant.
Yam could mean different things, and by Chilazon Gufa Doimel Yam is telling you something that you see that we see with the Murex, that it fits with the Seabed. It also fits with the green of the sea, so it's both. We win on both sides with Gufa Doimel Yam. You have this all over. There's a word that can mean different things in different places. I said it before, even the dog. There's a Klalistic dog and there's a Pratistic dog. Could go on with the big Josh about this. So we have till 12. I want to finish up the Iker Shir first before there's even a Mizumin left, and then we go on with questions after. Okay. So now the issue with the Ravid and the Rami Pano and those that say, and there's more Makaris for this also, that say that it's something that's Mechuber Lakarka, Yam and everything. So you want it to be something that's attached to the Yam and whatever. So they don't mean kipshuta that is mamish attached with roots, because with the Murex also it's stuck there. You have to yank it. It suctions in, so it's something that bats and fits. There's more that the Rabbi Yaakov Emden also says this whole thing that's between Daimim and Sameach, and Rabbi Yaakov Emden holds it's the same thing as as the Phoenicians used. Rabbi Yisroel happened to have thought it was a clam because he didn't see it, so he thought he got the impression it was a clam instead of a snail. But that's all the same idea. We're not going to have to say that it has to be exactly a clam and not a snail because Rabbi Yisroel describes it as a clam. That's not the.
Because otherwise, how no netilas neshama.
If it's a tzemach, there's no netilas neshama. Okay, but they say it's in between. So the mefakfikim, you say that though the mefakfikim will still answer that it's something hard to get. The mefakfikim will ask whatever they want. I just want to bring out things that are clear. One thing that's clear is that it's that it does suction to the bottom, even though it's not mechubar with roots. Another thing is Rabbi Yaakov Emden held that it was a snail-like creature. There's a different place Rabbi Yaakov Emden writes that the chilazon is doimel dag v'choymet yami. So you'll figure out what that means yourself. But choymet means a snail. He's saying it is a dag, it's a choymet, it's similar to choymet. I don't know. Rabbi Yaakov Emden knew that the chilazon was the same thing that the Phoenicians used, and Sheitzar used. So there's no question what Rabbi Yaakov Emden really held, even if he didn't picture it exactly right because he didn't see it. He thought it was a thing. So when Rabbi Yaakov Emden himself said that it's between a daimon and semech, obviously he didn't mean it like the way the mefakfikim want to understand it. There's more to say about this. There's someone that suggested that the shell itself is like a daimon because it doesn't have chiyus, and it's also like a semech because the shell keeps growing, and it's also a chai because someone suggested this 100 years ago or something. I forgot the name of the sefer. Okay. The last nekuda from the questions of the Rishonim was that the Yad Ramah mentions at Tzad that the chilazon gets swept up from the clouds that dip into the ocean. There is such a phenomenon now. I forgot what it's called. It was called the clouds go into like a tornado thing and picks up from the ocean, and things in the ocean end up in the clouds, and then they could be deposited in the on the Yabasha. So the Yad Ramah would seem to be explaining the chilazon as something that the chilazon and Techeiles as something, not something that's all at the bottom of the ocean, more like something that floats on top, like maybe like a Herzog's Jantina, or maybe something maybe in the middle of the ocean, but not something in the bottom. So it's very difficult to make that kasha because there's only one suggestion in the middle of a discussion of the Yad Ramah. It's not the way Rashi learns. The Yad Ramah just says it as like an ein loimar. It's not even Yad Ramah's maskana. It's a question from ein loim and Yad Ramah, and we said already. Medrash Lekach Tov says chilazon shesafim v'tamin b'chol, and all these sources before said that the chilazon is half to the bottom. So we have so many sources. This whole Ravid and the Rashmish and the Ramami Pano and the Yaakov Emden and the Rabag and Reb Shem Tov Ibn Paklira, that and the Sefer Apliya, everyone who says the thing about the chilazon being like a daimim and everything, they're talking about something in the bottom. It's very clear that the chilazon is something in the bottom of the ocean. So one havamina and the other ma. It's not even a havamina. It's ein loimer. Shouldn't make a kasha. I wanted running out of time. I wanted to discuss. I said I would discuss questions from Rabbi Reisman and Shlita. Okay, and we discuss them quickly. Reisman has an issue with Gedolim in the time of the Radziner Rebbe that seemed to have been shleisik to him, that it was a fish, and they didn't go and argue with him that it's a snail. I mentioned before that they did bring up this issue to the Radziner as a snail. Many Gedolei Olam over the Dairs that said that the chilazon is a purpura obviously disagreed with him. So what?
You see in the fish tank that for days it doesn't move. So why could it be considered as a tzemech?
It looks like it's a mech because it doesn't move for a long time. Okay, I have to get moving on to the other issues. So I'll say more after. Okay, now just because the Maharsham wore the Radziner Rebbe's Techeiles didn't mean that he agreed that it's a fish. It could be that just he was choishish that maybe the Radziner Rebbe is right. Maybe the Maharsham is soft like a shakal if it's a fish or a snail. It's not logical to make this claim that the Maharsham held paskin that the chilazon is a fish, and even if you have a Chuvas Maharsham that discusses the chilazon being a fish or whatever it says there, and any of these Chuvas from that time before all these Mekaros were brought to the table and the Tanch Yerushalmi and all the Rishonim say Telas, it's a totally unfair thing to go quoting a few Gedolim that maybe were choishish or maybe shoisik to the Radziner, or like the Beis HaLevi said an issue to the Radziner. He didn't ask this question, because they weren't addressing that. It doesn't mean that the Beis HaLevi and the Maharsham paskin that's a fish. It's a big question that Reisman has there. Reisman understands that Zvulun was a landlocked shevet, and he only had a small arm that went into the yam, and because of that, which is a valid mahalach in Novi, Ravelsky Zatzal also learned up the psukim like that. I heard a tape of him saying that, and so if based on that we're going to end with Pircha and the Techeiles, then you can wonder why Ravelsky said that the Techeiles is 100%. If he also agreed with the Reisman's Havana in the psukim of Zvulun. So it's obviously not a question, but I'll just say what the answer is. The Reisman's question was that they only had a small way out to the ocean, like a place to dock boats or something like that, and smashma the Chilazim, not something like the Murex, we go right offshore. Offshore was Asher territory, not Zvulun territory. So the Chilazim, the Murex is really in Asher's territory. So the Murex is really in Asher's territory. What does it have to do with Zvulun? He said, Reisman said that obviously the Murex is something much deeper sea thing. Maybe a fish that swims around it, you have to go out in fishing ships to get it. So this question I pointed out once, it really should have been addressed to Rabbi Emden, because Rabbi Emden makes the connection between the Vul, Shev, Zvulun, and the Chilazim, so you could, and says that it's the Murex, so you could address the question to Rabbi Emden. So the answer in Rabbi Reisman's way, which I have to say is answer for Velsky Zatal, who learned it like this also, the Psukim in Cheskel, the answer is, said before, that anytime it was mass production of Techeiles, wherever's near the shore, they live 2 to 22 meters deep. Wherever's near the shore is depleted immediately, and you're always going in deeper, so you are going out with boats in order to lay nets to do it, and that would be Zvulun's thing, going out with boats to lay nets. Now, this whole Hanacha that Zvulun is totally landlocked is highly debatable. There is, Rabbi Kaplan's map shows the arm going, Zvulun landlocked, and he has the arm going out, and then the arm goes and covers the half of the north of Eretz Yisrael. So even with the arm, you don't know what happened to the arm at the end. Now there's a Yad Ramah. I'm going to tell you a Rishon, and one Rishon should be enough to put to rest the idea that this is the one and only Mahalach in Shevet Zvulun, and you come with all the other things in the world, but the Yad Ramah or the Taisus Rid, which one was it? Taisus Rid. Okay, I have a whole write-up about this. You could get it from me. It's online at Techeiles.org also. But Taisus Rid and Baba Basra says that Zvulun and Naphtali were using the Gemara as examples of two Shvatim for the Zvulun, because Zvulun is an example of the most western Shevet, and Naphtali is the most eastern Shevet. And obviously the Taisus Rid is saying that Zvulun is an example of a very western Shevet. Obviously he's not a landlocked Shevet with just one little arm. The Kaftar Farach also, at least the people that put out the new 3-volume Kaftar Farach made a map of Alpi the Kaftar Farach, and the way that they understood the Kaftar Farach at least was also that Zvulun had a nice big chelak. And
Belsky told me because of Kaftar Farach, that's why I said Akasha.
Yeah, you said the Kaftar Farach there? Okay.
This is the name, but he said that shop.
What happens
I think he learned
when it's oil to the Abosha? To who does it belong?
If it's oil to Asher's thing, then Asher could take it. That's not a problem. Asher, other Shvatim can take what's roy to Zvulun, because Zvulun has the monopoly and catching the fish. I'll tell you, the emes says really I hold the Zvulun thing as a different thing. I forgot to mention. It's good you brought this up. The whole Zvulun question, I just told you two Mahalachim in Zvulun. One Mahalach, Al-Pi Rabbi Reisman's line of thought, which is the way that Velsky Zatal would have learned, but that they would go out with boats, which is in total consistence with the Murex, and the other way is that they had a nice way size by the shore, which is the back of Emden learns like that, and the Taisus Rid holds like that, and Kaftar Farach possibly learns like that. There's really a third Mahalach, and I like the Mahalach the best. I didn't even think of it now, but now you're reminding me. I wrote this in my longer version of my shtickle, which is not available online. The Radvaz says that the bracha of Shevet Zvulun was that the Chilazim will come up with Derech Nes to Shevet Zvulun. That was the Nes that happened to Shevet Zvulun Bizman Habayis. That's what the Radvaz, that people mix that up with Shivim Shana. He's not talking about Shivim Shana there. He's talking about the bracha of Shevet Zvulun, meaning the Radvaz is saying that there's a special Nes that they walked up and they marched up to Shevet Zvulun. All Shevet Zvulun has to have is a 1-inch place by the Yam for this single file march of Murices to march up. And the Radvaz explains something about what the Zechus of Zvulun was, and no one has a right to just machavek the Radvaz and ignore it. Okay. The Rambam dog, I think I explained before, that besides it's not a kasher, Tanchi Yerushalmi puts the kasher totally to rest, 6 feet under. The next question was that the Rabbi Reisman Shlita said that he got a letter from one of the Techeiles people that said that we have a raya, the Murex is a Techeiles because the Murex does not work good on linen, and the Gemara says Techeiles imruhu, and it doesn't work on linen, so it's good with the Gemara. So Rabbi Reisman said, you see that you needed a pasuk. If I'm understanding what he said right, he said Barichas Api Rashi, but his point was that really Techeiles could work on linen, you need a pasuk to be mimayed it. So the assumption was that Techeiles doesn't work on linen, and it doesn't work on linen, and it has to work. So so I tested myself Sunday night. I went and I did these both in the same vat. I put the wool on the linen, And the same thing as Bishan is, if it be Shutav and Nozke, this is the wool, this is the linen. The linen came out lighter, which is perfectly fine, because if not for the drasha, then this would be kosher for Techeiles. And even if you were to argue that this linen is a weaker dye and would wash out, it could still be kosher for Techeiles, if not for the drasha. Okay, now I happen to have washed it out with hot water and tide, and still nothing happened to this linen. So the Murex works on linen. It doesn't work as good. You could see it's lighter. There were some people said they tried experimenting and didn't work. It could be in the olden days it was harder. L'maisa, it is possible. And Vimeo, is this a raya to the Murex because of the Gemara? No, because I don't see anything from the Gemara if it's good and if it's any better or worse than linen. All I see is that there's a havmina that linen's good and the maskana is that it's not. And the havmina and maskana are both in my hands. But the emes says it is a raya to the Murex or a smach because the Sefer HaChinuch says that the Techeiles was something that was not oila yafa as much in Semer as in is not oila yafa as much in Pishtim as in Semer. So we proved the Sefer HaChinuch's point, and there's no steer from Rashi, and there's no steer from anything. Okay, so we put that kashrus to rest. There was a question that the Techeiles people brought a raya from Indigo. The Indigo is the same color as the Murex, so you see that the Murex might be the Chilazin because it makes the same color. So the question was that the Ben Yoina says that Karsi is indigo, Ben Techeiles the Karsi is indigo. So we just have to step back for a second and think that if when it starts turning light outside, you get Karsi, you're able to see the difference between Techeiles and indigo. So no one's using indigo to fake Techeiles, obviously, and no one's using indigo to fake Techeiles, and you don't need a bedika for it, and there's no ani Hashem shasli para. Every single person is going to see, and he's going to get beaten bidei adam for faking for being a fake tzaddik. And the question is on Rabbi Yoina himself, not on the Murex, and the answer is that Rabbi Yoina is talking about. I mentioned before that Rabbi Yoina that indigo could make the greenish also, and I think that the emes answer is that Rabbi Yoina is talking about the greenish type of indigo, and that's Ben Techeiles l'karsi. And the real original, the main dye of indigo, or the blue indigo, which I have the powder here, it's the pure blue, is the one that's exactly identical to Techeiles, and Rabbi Yoina is talking about something else. You have to say that anyways, regardless of the Murex, and I think that's emes teretz. Okay. There's a question also, why would anyone pay more for Kol Ilun if it's the same thing, it's the same chemicals? So besides that they weren't looking in the microscope, I already said historically, if we believe the Rambam, we're not going with scientists, we're going with the Metzias and the Rishonim, and we believe the Rambam and the Rizvaz. The indigo was a weak dye those days. It was not just considered weak, it was weak, and it's much less, you don't pay money for low quality things. There was another question that what's the Shara Meshchirim in the Rambam. So someone mentioned over here that there used to be a lapis lazuli dye, and there's also different types of indigo around. There's indigo and woad, and there's indigo from the Yam HaMelech. That's a third type, I think. So that's not a question. There's questions about, do you need a Messiah for the Techeiles? And the answer is no. This says in the Chuas Maril, it says in the Levush, it says in the Chemda Shloimeh, it says in the Arts Chaim that you don't need a Messiah. No one has the right to argue with the Maril and the Gedolei Achronim. No one in the world has the right to argue with the Maril. And no one has the right to quote any midrashim about Nignaz and to use it to argue with the Maril. It's just off limits to argue with the Maril. It's just off. Now I'm going to answer everything and say that the rumor of Hashem the Beis Halevi that you need a Messiah is a shibush from what the Beis Halevi really said, that it's fakert. If there's a Messiah against the Techeiles, then it's a problem. But in that other source, he says 2 times that if there's no Messiah against it, then you have to wear it. And the whole Nignaz thing in the Medrash Rabbah doesn't say how long it's Nignaz for. In the Sifri it says Nignaz lost a lavai, but the Sifri is a whole big arichas. I wrote up about it. You could get it on the.
The Beis Halevi is saying that we're looking for something that was never the Messiah is.
The Beis Halevi says you have to find something that's against. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It says in Shuvas Mariel anyways. No one has the right to argue with Mariel. One certain Adam Gadol came up with the pilpul that the Mariel is only going in certain Rishonim, Shita, and other Rishonim not, but it's just a pilpul because the Mariel says it's there and there's no one that argues with it, and there's no way. I'm not going to get into arichos now. If someone wants to ask questions and answers.
What does the Mariel say?
What?
What does the Mariel say?
Mariel explains the deis of certain Rishonim that say that there's a gzeira in the time of the Gemara. You can't make a talus out of linen, because if you make it out of linen, then you're going to put the Techeiles in it. Techeiles is wool, so there's no problem. You're allowed to put Techeiles into linen. So what's the problem? Because you put Techeiles as nitzpah shalei l'shma, or some other apostle Techeiles. So they said don't use linen at all because you might put apostle Techeiles in. So that's only in the time when there's Techeiles, someone's going to mix the wool and linen. I might be talking a little too fast. I'm hoping it's clear enough. In the time when there's Techeiles, then you have a problem if people would use a linen beged, because then a guy would put puzzle Techeiles, and it would have a problem with wool and linen. In the time when there's no Techeiles, no one would have me to put in wool tzitzis. Everyone would just put linen tzitzis in the linen beged. In time when there's Techeiles, there's a michshach, so Chazal said not to use linen. So the Maril explains the Rishonim that say you still have the Gzeira these days because Techeiles could come back anytime. We paskin Mikra din that we don't have the Gzeira these days. That doesn't mean that we hold that we paskin Kiyul Na'at Maril Techeiles can't come back. It just means that we paskin that as long as there's no Techeiles, then you don't have the Gzeira. And that's all. And when Techeiles comes back, the Gzeira come back. Because we're machmer l'chatchila, I think that's how it goes. Yeah. Okay. I'm just saying that the other Rishonim don't argue with the Yisrael the Maril that it could come back. There's not a single sheet that argues with it. There's a sefer on the Medrash Rabbah called Tiferes Tzion that learns up Nignas Kipshutai and says that if anyone comes to tell you Techeiles, then it got lost. So it's very nice that the Shuvas on August found the sefer Tiferes Tzion, or his grandson that wrote the Shuvah maybe found it. So it's very nice that there's a sefer that says it. Okay, we don't use these farim in any normal halacha discussion against the Maril, the Levush, the Eilos Talmud, the Chendes Shloimeh. It's totally not done. If it would be done in any other halacha issue, then people get thrown out of the bismarriage, right out the bismarriage for doing that.
But anyway, there's various makaros that Nignas does not.
There's various makaros that Nignas is only for a certain amount of time. By the Mon, it says that you should eat the Mon on Friday night. By the Mon, it says you should eat your Mon on Friday night and put away the rest of the mishmeres out of Biker. And Rashi says the Geniza. So you have overnight Geniza of the Mon. There is a Sifri that says something, a whole story about Nignas lost of Lavai. And I'm going to leave that for a separate discussion after I just finish up what the Sifri means, because the Sifri is really talking about the Romans and saying a whole side about the Techeiles, about the side of the Romans that were geyser and the Techeiles and took it away, and the loss of the Techeiles throughout the Golus is an emanation of the Ruchniistic Keiches of Loim Yamots, and that's what the Sifri means. And there's no shaykhs to not being able to use Techeiles if you find it. They just say that the 4 reasons not to wear Techeiles are all very weak reasons. They're only reasons if there's 0% chance. As soon as there's a reason, then just because of it says in Klebus Shuvah, says the power of Min Kanaf, there's not a reason to not wear something that you have a real reason to think it's Techeiles. It was properly pointed out that Min Kanaf, that the G'dayla Chaynim, the Chaznish, and it's clear that the Mishabur Paschals like this, that there's no issue of Min Kanaf of having the same color as the Beged on the Chutim, Narbim Wakim Techeiles, and it's a very shver Klebus Shuvah and emotional reason, because it says in Klebus Shuvah the reason not to wear Techeiles is good if it's 0% chance. Now if it's 0% chance you're wearing Techeiles, then you're anyways just like there's nothing to talk to. So like Manavshach, if there's a real reason to wear. So okay, now the Chuvas Besamim Roish that says a reason not to wear Techeiles if it's wrong. So I would just want to let you know that the Besamim Roish is a Ziyaf Gomer. It was put out by a maskell from Berlin, and it says Divrei Kfira there. The Avnei Nezer says you have to burn the sefer. And Yom Kippur that comes out on Shabbos, B'derech Haflaga. I'm not going to say over the Kfira that it says in the. I'm not going to say over the Kfir that it says in the Besamim Roish. It's near the end of the Sefer, so the other Chayim that quote it could be didn't get up to the end of the Sefer and don't know what it says there. There's a long story behind why the Sefer came out. It's totally discredited, and the person who put it out was from the Talmidei Ramad, as he's known as, and the Shuv against Techeiles is Simon Reish Mem Daled, totally befitting it. And if there's place in Achronim that bring it, it's maybe they brought it just because there's a good svara, so you have to give credit where credit is due even if it comes from a bad person, so that's why there's a lot of quote someone mumcha in Greek, someone didn't like I quote a mumcha in Greek that said that we don't know what perfinan means. So
does it mean something that the only one who says that you can't bring back Techeiles is the Besamim Roish?
The Besamim Roish was the first one that came out against the idea of bringing back Techeiles. So it's an interesting thing. Rabbi Yochanan Fischel Perla that says that Loisisa is a very strong thing. He was made himself, and so now we talk about the Ben Yehoda says that the Sitra Achra and Kla Elon is weiter. If you have a reason to think that this Techeiles is not an issue, there's a few other reasons why the Ben Yehoda is not an issue. One reason why it's not an issue is because if there's a chashash as Techeiles, then you have to do a mitzvah not be worried with Sitra Achra. Second thing is that the Ben Yehoda quotes this thing that anything that's not Techeiles has Sitra Achra in it. He quotes this from Shar Mamor Rashbi from the Arizal. I couldn't place the Makar yet. I'm waiting for someone to show me where it is. But so far, what I've been shown, or what I found or been shown, was a different Kabbalah Sefer Akana that brings out this idea that Kla'ilun is bad or ruchnistic a thing, and Sefer Akana says that the reason is because it grows out of the ground. So I couldn't place the Sharma Mari Rashbi that the Ben Yoda brings, but I know from Sefer HaKana is that it's because it grows out of the ground, so it doesn't apply. Another thing is that a guy who tries to do a Aveira and it's not Matzliach, the Gemara says in Kedushin, Misha Nasan Yada was Lechol B'sar Chazir, all B'yada B'sar Tle, so he still gets a oynish for trying to do a Aveira. Now it's partial the guy who was trying to do a mitzvah, Midah Tovim Merubah, the guy was trying to do a mitzvah, even if it came out as Kla Ilan, so he's getting schar for the mitzvah of trying to wear Techeiles, just like a guy, Kavachomer from a guy who's trying to eat Chazer, he's getting schar for Techeiles, and there's no Sitra Achar on him, and the Merubah Midah Taiva, and if it's not the Techeiles, he gets schar for trying, there's absolutely no Sitra Achar, and I would say that just that it's I said before about the Sifri, maybe I'll finish with this now, but
anyway, it's definitely not Kol Elon. It can be Kol Elon.
There's not Kol Elon, okay, but the lashon of the Ben Yoda is that anything that's not Techeiles is Nicha. So I said I have to look up the Makar of the Ben Yoda to understand fully what he's saying. I wasn't able to place the Makar yet. And then
is coming from anything other. It's a certain thing that they don't see.
Right, and the Rishonim say klar that in that sugya that in Balansi where the Ben Yoda is that it's mutter to wear Kol Elon in a time when there's no Techeiles around Zeicher the Techeiles. So the halacha there's absolutely no problem at all. Use that. Okay, Arkan Shkoyach for staying. Whoever stayed this late.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.